don't have a mic. There we are. Good afternoon. Welcome to the City Council regular meeting for January the 19th, 2022. The time is 6:17 p.m. Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mayor Ronnie Felder,
Here.
Chairperson Shirley Lanier,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Kashambra Miller Anderson,
Present.
Councilperson Trodrick McCoy is absent, Councilperson Julio Botel,
Here.
Councilperson Douglas Lawson, City Manager Jonathan Evans,
Present.
Tawana Smith is present for City Clerk Claudine Anthony, Don Wynn, City Attorney.
Here.
You have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Let's have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by our mayor.
I pledge allegiance.
Justice for all. Are there any additions, deletions, or substitutions for this agenda this evening?
Yes, Madam Chair, I ask that the city clerk read those items into the record, and also as a note related to ordinance 4191, amending the city's wetland preservation ordinance. That item will be scheduled for your next regular meeting of the City Council, which will be February 2nd. Madam Clerk?
Yes, item 8B is being deleted. Also, item 11A.
Slow down.
Okay.
Madam, item 8E,
B as in boy.
8B. Okay.
And then 11A as in apple, that's being deleted as well. And for items 11B and 11C, I have copies of the full resolution if you need it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Yes, go ahead. Need a microphone down at Councilman Lawson's.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could add a quick discussion item, want to see if we could entertain a discussion item to address the uptick in gun violence and violent crimes in our community. Maybe hearing from our chief, and I know we do have a lengthy meeting, but if we could just have a brief discussion so we can give some direction and also get some insight as to what we're doing.
Yeah, yes, we'll add it to discussion and deliberation.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Under discussion and deliberation, number 12. Do we have the chief of police here?
Yes, Madam.
Okay, that's, I just wanted to make sure you're here, chief. Let us accept the agenda as amended, please. Can I get a motion?
So moved. I made a motion.
Okay.
Second.
You got a second? Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson,
Yes.
Councilperson Botel,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chairperson Lanier.
Yes.
That vote passes.
I forgot to ask the council, are there any disclosures by the council in regards to any items on this agenda this evening? Hearing none, the next item is the consent agenda. All matters listed under this item are considered to be routine, and action will be taken by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a councilperson so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered in its normal sequence on the agenda. Do any of the board want to take a second look at any of the items on the consent agenda? Actually, there is none. There is no items on the consent agenda. Sorry about that.
It makes it very easy to read.
Yeah, that makes it very easy. All right, so our next item, which is number 5A, Madam Clerk.
Presentation of update regarding development agreement for Fire Station Number 88.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair and members of the board, the intent behind this presentation is to inform the board that we're in the final steps of solidifying the agreement between Kaufman Lynn and the City of Riviera Beach related to a construction services agreement, and then allocating the appropriate monies for the construction of Fire Station 88, which is going to be located on the old Walgreens property on the corner of Blue Heron and Congress. We originally anticipated that this item would come before the board at this meeting, but the attorneys are in the final stages of reviewing the document. Our hope is that you would see the document and be ready to approve it at your February 2nd meeting. And then we have tentatively scheduled a groundbreaking for the fire station on Tuesday, February 15th, I believe, at 3 p.m. More information will be sent out by the manager's office related to that, and then construction will commence probably a week after that. And so we're in the final stages. This is just an update to let you know that we'll be commencing construction and bringing forth a contract for your consideration at your next regular city council meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
may I address Mr. Evans?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, I appreciate that. We're going to get an update. Could we also get updates, just brief updates, at every council meeting on the projects that we have ongoing, such as the water treatment plant, this fire station, any other fire stations that we have in the works, City Hall, all of the projects that we have that we anticipate completing in the next year or so, a couple of years? I think people in the community really are always asking, what are we doing with this? What are we doing with that?
We can certainly provide something. It probably would be easier for us to put it in writing, and something that we have a reimagined section on our website where we upload information and files, but we can provide it in writing and include it as an attachment on the agenda packet for the board, because there is going to be a lot of action that the board is going to be taking with regards to Station 86, temporary Station 86, the leasing of the property to place the temporary station, also 87, and the monies that we got from the state and what have you, and then obviously the police department. So we can provide a report that will be included in the agenda packet, and then if there's any items that as part of my report I can touch on any changes in the status of those projects, so we can certainly do that.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next item is number 8, which are ordinances on the first reading. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance number 4176, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending Chapter 5 entitled Elections, Article 1 in general, Section 5-11 entitled Canvassing, Certification of Elections, A, and Section 5-11B of the City Code of Ordinance, authorizing renumeration of said chapter if necessary, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for repeal of laws in conflict, and providing for an effective date. Madam Chair, we do not have any public comments on this item. The acceptance of public comments is now closed.
Motion to approve ordinance number 4176.
Second.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, the city clerk is attending the meeting virtually. Ms. Anthony?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. As you all are aware, we have been in discussion regarding the Palm Beach County Canvassing Board serving as the canvassing board for the City of Riviera Beach municipal election. The ordinance that is before you is the ordinance that was a part of the package from our last council meeting that staff drafted for your approval on first reading tonight and to be adopted at our February 2nd City Council meeting. And as a result of the adoption of this, if it is adopted, no members of the City Council will have to serve on the city's canvassing board, and as a result, will be able to participate in any campaign activities they so desire. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions for Ms. Anthony in regards to this item? Thank you for your presentation. Madam Clerk?
Yes, thank you. Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chairperson Lanier?
Yes.
That vote passes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next item under our regular agenda is number 11B. Madam Clerk?
Resolution number 18-22, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, approving a preliminary term sheet establishing the basic terms for negotiating a ground lease agreement with Foundcare Incorporated, a nonprofit federal qualified health center for the city property located at 3501 Broadway for the construction and development of a health center, providing an effective date, and for other purposes. We do not have any public comments on this item, Madam Chair. The acceptance of public comment cards are now closed.
Mr. Evans? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Madam Chair and members of the board, at this time, I'll ask for Deputy
We
City
have, I'm
Manager.
sorry, Mr. Evans, we have a second, a motion and a second, Madam Clerk.
I
We have
didn't
a
hear you.
motion and a second for that, okay?
You say, do you?
Yes,
We
we
do. Did you get the names?
No.
Hotel, motion,
No.
second by Miller Anderson.
Actually,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Evans, go ahead.
Madam Chair and members of the board, if I can have Deputy City Manager Ms. Elizabeth McBride make this presentation along with representatives from Foundcare.
Madam Chair, Mayor, and members of the City Council, we have with us this evening representatives from Foundcare, the former director, Yolette Bonet, and with her is Mr. Chris Irizarry, who is the new CEO for Foundcare. We have been working with them since the fall to, one, identify locations for possibly a site for Foundcare within our municipality. We finally have reached that position, a recommended site, and we have before you tonight just a preliminary term sheet, and we are hoping to seek your permission that we can move forward to negotiate a long-term ground lease and development agreement for that site. That Foundcare will cover the costs related to it. And I think what we would like, how we would like to proceed tonight is first that there would be a presentation from Foundcare. Then we'll talk about the site and talk about the major terms that we'd like to share for your consideration for the term sheet.
Thank you, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Yolette Bonet. As a matter of fact, until the 31st of this month, I'll still be the CEO, and then Chris will take over starting February 1st. Thank you for the opportunity again to come in front of you and present this idea. I feel like I'm going to bore you because you've heard this before, but I apologize if I get pretty boring. What? You have it, okay. All right. So, Chris, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mayor, members of the board, Mr. City Manager. My name is Christopher Irizarry. As Ms. Bonet stated, I'm the incoming Chief Executive Officer at Foundcare, and I'm delighted to be here this evening to make this presentation to you. It's been a long road to get here, and a lot of work, a lot of hours, because we believe in providing service to the residents of Riviera Beach. It's just as simple as that. There's nothing else to it. So thank you again for giving us this opportunity this evening.
And the staff has been great, by the way. Okay, so a little bit of history about the organization. The Comprehensive AIDS Program started in 1985. And the reason that we got started is a bunch of concerned citizens in Palm Beach County were watching their friends die of HIV and AIDS, and they decided that they needed to give them some dignity. So the initial organization, the only services we provided at the time was to help people die with dignity, do some referral, case management, and some mental health. Then in 2001, I got hired. In 2002, Foundcare was created because we realized that to be effective in our community, we had to provide more services than what we were currently doing at CAP. So in 2009, we started providing health services. We renovated a building and did that. Then we applied for the federal grants in 2010. Then in 2013, we merged all the organizations together. Then we expanded our services throughout the county, and we identified the areas with the highest needs in terms of zip codes, and that's where the locations that we actually serve, because that is our mission, to provide access to healthcare regardless of ability to pay. And so we attempted to do that. And as we then start providing services, then we identify other issues that needed to be addressed. So we added pediatrics then women's health for mammograms, and then behavioral health right now, that's a big issue in our community. And so we also added in 2021, we merged with a large behavioral health practice, and then we continue to provide the services. And most recently, we are expanding into the Okeechobee. So our total sites, we have 7 sites in the county currently, and so we are hoping that Riviera Beach will be number 8, and we basically take pride and we serve the community, we hire people from the community, so you will see that. So what type of services do we usually provide? So we have adult medicine, pediatric, chronic disease management, behavioral health, women's health, adults. We also have on-site pharmacy, because what we were finding is that we would prescribe the medication because someone was ill, and then they would not get the medication filled. So we are able to provide that service. Infectious disease, testing, we still hold true to our history in terms of doing HIV and Hep C. We do labs and social services like behavioral health and all of the above, and x-rays. And we have extended hours. One of the things that was identified in the Riviera Beach community is that there is not even any urgent care. And so we're open usually 8 to 8, so then we can also provide that service to the community, so that and you'll see how much it costs a lot of money to do urgent care. So last year, 2020, not 21, those numbers are coming in right now as we speak, but we had 156,000 patient visits. We served 24,000 patients, and total number of people who were uninsured was about 8,000, a little bit more than 8,000. And we also did testing in the community in the thick of COVID. And so we also pediatric, we're close to almost 7,000 patients that we serve that are children. And then we still have about the largest AIDS service organization in Palm Beach County, and we continue to serve. So as you all know, I think I've done this before, and I don't want to shortchange the community who's watching, but in 2020, when nothing else was happening in our community and we didn't have our bearings yet because all this COVID was new to us, people were referred to our center to come and get a COVID test in an effort to safeguard our patients, our staff, and also still provide the community a service. We decided to operate a drive-through testing. And as it turned out, we learned that we were the first drive-through testing in the state of Florida. So because of that, we got national press. I ended up in CNN. My medical director was in ABC, and we were in the front page of the Wall Street Journal and several other journals and other media outlets. So just to show you our growth, in 2015, we started serving only 8,000, a little bit over 8,000, close to 9,000 patients. And to 2020, we served over 24,000, almost 25,000 patients. And this is the patient demographic broken down in terms of our demographic in the type of service. The medical is the highest need, followed by I guess that's our testing numbers back then, but that number will shift. And as you can see, insurance status, our uninsured rate is one of the largest. We have 34% of the patients who are uninsured, and yet they still receive quality services because we don't, there's no distinction between paid patients and uninsured patients. We also have transportation. During COVID, we were not able to transport individuals to the clinic, so we pivoted and we use our transportation to deliver medications to our patients, and that's what we did with that. I'll let Chris jump in there.
Sure. So you can see that Foundcare, one of the things we pride ourselves in is receiving recognition, and not because of the fact that we provide access to care to everyone, but we do it at the highest level of quality. And that's something that we pride ourselves in at Foundcare, is that we're providing services, but it's of high quality. That's really important to know. Also, our financials, we're strong. You want to make sure that you're working with a nonprofit that has a strong financial basis. And that continues to grow. The organization continues to grow. Ms. Bonet's done a fabulous job of making sure that we stretch every single penny that we get from federal government revenues that we generate. And just to give you an example of the expenses that we curtail by having a community health center in the community, a lot of folks, sometimes you see these billboards that say, come to the hospital, it's a 3-minute wait. Well, every time somebody goes to the hospital, it costs that much money when they hit the ER, the emergency room. Now, if they come to Foundcare, you could see what the average cost is on the bottom, $132 versus thousands of dollars that we as taxpayers pay when a person goes to the emergency room. That's the importance of preventative medicine and preventative care. And then the impact that we have on the community. The return on investment is 171%. So every dollar invested in Foundcare really translates to a lot more money for the community. And you can see the impact that we as an organization have made. This is done by the Florida Association of Community Health Centers for federally qualified health centers throughout the state. And we've generated in 2020 $49.9 million on economic impact. That's really important for everyone to understand. And then, of course, we provide community service. We do fundraisers in the community. We become part of the community that we serve, and that's important. We don't just serve the community, we are the community. And I want to show you what we believe in. Historically, and Foundcare has always wanted to build health centers that people want to use, not health centers people have to go to. You can see our site on Congress, our main site, what it looked like before we renovated it. This is before, and this is after. So we took that and made it this. Our Okeechobee Boulevard site, which we just finished renovating, looked like this. And then it looked like this. It doesn't look like this anymore. But you can see the renovation happening. You can see the atrium in the front being built. And this is what it looks like today. And we opened this December 6th, less than 2 years when we started construction. And this is what we're proposing in Riviera Beach. And we've looked at different sites. This is something that had been already presented to this board a few years ago. And let me explain what the need is in this population. So if you look at the UDS mapper, which is what federally qualified health centers use to identify need in the community, just plugging in these 3 zip codes, 33403, 404, 407, you have a total population of 72,000 folks. 36,143 are considered low income, and only 9,900 folks are accessing a community health center. So everyone else is going without access to a community health center. Currently, of those 9,900, Foundcare is managing about 33% of those patients. But we're located in South Congress, so it's relatively a far distance from the community. We anticipate managing about an additional 15,000 unique patients if this health center is built in Riviera Beach. Again, this is just giving you a different perspective of the patients that we're currently serving and what zip codes they're from. And then the sites that were reviewed, one of the council folks had asked us at the last meeting, all right, Chris, what sites did you review with the administration? So we discussed, we talked about and visited these 3 particular sites, the Boys and Girls Club campus. Now there's multiple organizations there that have some who have existing leases. The accessibility was a little difficult. As a federally qualified health center, we are beholden to the HRSA, or Health Resource Service Administration, to make sure that our site is accessible, close to a bus line. So we looked at all those things, and parking. Parking is critical. We know we're going to bring a lot of traffic. So we looked at the Boys and Girls Club, and we had some of those, minimal challenges, but we had those challenges nonetheless. We looked at the lot next to Barracuda Bay. You have a beautiful community garden. We don't want to be the anti-community garden health center. And not to mention, it's adjacent to a Board of Education property, which really is not in the purview of the city. And again, as I expressed at the CRA meeting, we really have funders who are ready to give the funding to get this moving quickly. And then we were concerned about a little heavy traffic in the area for the schools that are in the area, and they also have parking needs. And then we looked at 3501 Broadway, which is near a bus line. It's where actually across the street from there, Foundcare had operated and still have a lot of clients from that immediate area that we serve with health services through Ryan White program. And we felt that this lot was large enough to sustain the parking that we need for the community. So what are some of the opportunities and next steps is obviously we've identified this space. We want to build 20,000 square feet. We understand that this is going to be a vibrant community area where you're going to have some business activities, and there's a lot of plans for the future of this particular area. So Foundcare has committed to build 20,000 square feet, 15,000 which will be the community health center, and 5,000 which will be used by the City of Riviera Beach or the CRA for a business incubation program. We understand that that's important to the city, and we want to make certain that it's there and part of what it is we're building and putting together. And our objective is to serve 13,000 unique patients for hopefully between 13,000 and 15,000 for 33,000 visits, which is average 2.5 visits per year per patient. And the goal is to be permanently here, a permanent health center within the boundaries of Riviera Beach. That's what we're aiming to do. There aren't a lot of communities that can say they have that. We want to provide that for the city. And then I have some estimated costs for the building. As I said, we've been working with a funder to help provide this. Foundcare will be committing to the incubation space, and you can see some of that information there for you as well. And the benefits go without saying. You'll have a federally qualified health center in Riviera Beach. And what that means is that patients will have access to primary care, whether they have insurance or not, whether they have the ability to pay or not. And it's going to be high quality health care, career positions or opportunities for work, potentially a medical teaching site in the community, and reduce health disparities. I think that's probably the most important aspect of it. It's really how do we make the community healthier, keep folks out of the hospitals, have better outcomes for babies when they're born, and make sure that we provide all the services that you could see listed up there in the community. We would like to invite all of you, make sure that all of you get an email inviting you to the ribbon cutting of our new site at Okeechobee so you can see what it is that we want to bring to Riviera Beach. And all the residents that would like to come, please, you're welcome. The event is going to be January 26th. We're going to have a full day open house, but the actual event will be from 3:30 to 4:30, and that's at 5867 Okeechobee Boulevard in West Palm Beach. So at this point, I'd like to answer any questions that you may have.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
is this a different site from the last time you spoke with us, or is this the same site as?
It's the same site, which, in terms of which site, the land that we are looking at, it's the same site we talked about.
And okay.
Any other questions in regards to this item?
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm very excited about this project, and I was one of the council people that was concerned with the location, and I love that you incorporated the incubator site into this project. I think that adds a amazing touch to the need that we have in our community. I have a few questions before I address some of the concerns. Time frame on development. How long? I know that you said your Okeechobee site took about 2 years. What is your projected time frame on development and completion?
We understand that staff has done a lot of work on that particular site, and so therefore there's a lot of things that we would not have to jump through. And so we anticipate if we have the go-ahead, and the funding is ready to go as well right now, because they were very excited that we were able to have have exploration with the city. So we anticipate that can be done within 24 months or less.
Okay. And I guess I want to address some of the concerns from the last time we met. I saw that additional sites were visited, and we also took into consideration. One of the sites that we did speak about was the actual Wells location, because we spoke about a possible Wells Center, Health and Wellness Center, at the Wells location with Reimagine. That was one of the discussion items that we had during our Reimagine workshops, and that was the biggest thing that we wanted to address, and making sure we had a health and wellness center right in the heart of our community. The location is my biggest concern because it's kind of on the outskirts. Even though you do provide transportation there, there's a bus route there. The fact that this would better serve our community in the heart of our community, I think is something that we have to really look at, because that Wells location would be prime based upon what Reimagine actually talked about. So, Mr. Evans, if you could address the idea, we didn't look at that site based upon this presentation. Was that taken into consideration, the current site of Wells?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
With respect to the site that the councilperson is talking about, where the Wells Recreation Center is now, we are going to have a fitness and wellness component of our recreational service offerings on site there. However, as it relates to the optimal location, one of the things that Foundcare had spoken about is the influx of persons that they have that visit their center, and if there is already going to be some challenges related to parking. And the other side of it is, with what we're looking to do on our Reimagine program and the construction of a new wellness recreation center, right? The issue is their funder is ready to move now. We still have some subsequent conversations that have to occur at the board level, as well as the deal-making components that conceivably can take up to 6 to 8 months, and they would like to be in a position to have a site plan approved and getting ready to move dirt, if at all possible, within that time frame. And so when they looked at the bus line and the ability to move the project forward, this was the optimal location, and then they didn't want to commingle some of the other things that we have going on. For instance, when we did look at the Boys and Girls site, there is so many other activities that are going there, and they don't want to create any issue or conflict as it relates to parking and the use of the lot and what have you. And so the only way that that particular property would have worked was they would have to utilize the area where the existing entities are, as well as the detention area, the dry detention area, to build a facility on top of that. So we did go back and forth, and they did look at even the Walgreens property that we acquired for Fire Station 88. They looked at the library property as well for opportunities. And so as we looked at all the opportunities within the city, and then they went back and their team has looked at the site to say, hey, they need to be in a specific geographical area, census tract, and close to a bus line. That's the prerequisites, and that site is optimal for that, especially on that US 1 corridor. And so we did look at that, and Chris and I did have conversations about when we started talking about wellness and recreation or what have you, seeking clarity as with respect to what that is, because you know, we have a different, same intended outcome, but different missions. And so we think that there's some value to having some type of major wellness component, but it's profoundly different to the services that they'll be providing through Foundcare.
So just to follow up on that, the initiative was to bring this organization into our community. I absolutely agree with finding a location immediately. Your current sites are located, are any of your sites in the downtown corridor and some of the other locations that you've established? Are any of your other sites currently in a downtown corridor in other locations that you've established over the last 5 years?
I mean, Palm Springs don't really have a downtown, but we're right in the center of Congress Avenue. That's where we're located. Another of our site is right on Okeechobee Boulevard, which is by the Turnpike, so you really accessible. We have for Boynton Beach, we're located right there on Congress as well. So, we have an office in Belgrade. We're also located in the community, in an area that the community can get access to.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much where we're located.
So I guess the follow-up is, Mr. Evans, we are waiting on a report to come back from Treasure Coast in regards to the intensities and densities on the Broadway corridor. We're looking at addressing the heights and levels of development that we're looking on Broadway. There's an organization that came and said that they were in contract and recently closed on a project across the street. And we just had some development of D.R. Horton, who built, I believe, 89 townhouses on the adjacent lot. That location is looking for something to put a health center at that location. I don't think is the prime development location for what we're trying to establish as a downtown corridor. A one-story facility, which would be better fit in the heart of our community, maybe at our Wells site, maybe closer to our Tate site, somewhere at the Boys and Girls, at a different location, because essentially this project is needed. We have to find a fit for it, but I don't want to rush or railroad this through into that location because the development that we're bringing to that location is fit for our ad valorem tax, is fit for increasing our revenue for our city, is fit for actually allowing for us to operate in a function of giving some type of downtown feel for our actual residents. I think that this is just, colleagues, this is something that we're rushing through, because understanding that we're not going to be making any ad valorem tax from this parcel as well. It's been sitting vacant for a number of years, but this council has been the one to say that we're going to provide development. So looking at the development that's coming, we're looking at possibly just on the north end in Lake Park, they've already approved Nautilus 220. If all my colleagues have seen that development, this is going to be the adjacent piece. So I really would like, and I think we talked about staff looking at other parcels, because that Wells location is a major piece of land. I'm not sure why we can't carve out 20,000 square feet to put this facility and get them moving, because we've had months and months and months of discussions of reimagine. I don't think it's going to take us an additional 6 months to say let's move forward with it, so I don't want us to continue to kick this can down the road. I want us to find the location. I'm just not in support of this location.
Thank
you,
you,
Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, sir. I
Madam
appreciate your comment.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. I have similar concerns. We really need this facility. Riviera Beach, we know we're a food desert and we're, to some degree, a healthcare desert. We need this facility, but that particular parcel, as my colleague has said, is an area that really is going to be changing significantly with the advent of this Nautilus project right across the street. That developer is looking at the potential of taking that whole shopping center and creating something quite unique there. I love the idea of having it at Wells, and I'm hoping that there isn't something we can do to get it rolling at that site. It's a much better location. From my perspective, it's a much better location for our citizens to get to. It's more centrally located for the city. It will tie in with the other project that we'll have going on in there, and I just would hope that we can find a way to put it there and not at 3501 Broadway. That's why I asked if it was the same location as before, because I thought maybe you were coming back with a different location. I was excited about it, and then I realized, no, this is the same location. We didn't want to have it there last time. So, again, I'm hoping that you can work with Mr. Evans and find that we can put it at the Wells site or some other site that's more centrally located.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Thank you. Just go ahead, sir.
Just to provide some clarity for the board, at our last conversation, the discussion was, the sites that we looked at, why those sites did not work. We went through a pretty exhaustive process and met with Foundcare on numerous occasions, and we landed on this site because of, one, its proximity to the bus line, two, the optimal location, three, the way the city acquired the property. It got the property for fractions of what the property's value is. And so the city does not have much fiscal resources tied into that particular parcel. The concern is if you look to move this to a situation whereby we're looking to redevelop 600 and 601 Blue Heron, invariably you will lose the opportunity to work with Foundcare because of their developers and their investors that are looking to move very quickly with regards to this. One thing I think is important to note, that this is a hospital, in essence, that is consistent with the CRA's plan, and these are services that are being provided to well over 3,600 of residents that are in the community today that are receiving services from Foundcare outside of our community. There is not a medical office that I would venture to say that is open past 6 o'clock. You're having a situation where conceivably you can have the urgent care operations right here in the community. The other side of it is the $2.8 million that's added to the construction project is money that we as the city don't have to come forward with because Foundcare is looking to provide that incubator space, which is in turn going to be a complementary service to where we can provide an employee health clinic to reduce your overall expenditures related to the services that you provide to the employees. So there's a lot of ancillary value that is provided by having Foundcare and having a medical campus in your downtown core. That property has sat vacant. In the event that you wanted to look at densities and intensities, there is some concessions that you would have to make and some additional capital that you might have to bring to the table to make the economics work to be able to go with something that is over the 3 or 4 stories that's allowed in that particular area. Now, if you increase the densities and intensities, that increased construction costs, and then we may look back at the site and say, well, where are we going to be able to carve out another spot? Because if you put a 20 or 30,000 square foot facility on 601 Blue Heron, you then have a situation to where do I find another 20 or 30,000 square feet for a wellness center, as well as a police station, if we look to put the police station there, as well as, you know, any other ancillary facilities, and how do you offset the cost for City Hall and other development opportunities? So it's a lot more complicated than just plopping the facility there on Blue Heron and on the City Hall campus. And I would venture to say, and the Foundcare representatives can speak to that, I think if we look to have that discussion or move to that way, I think you have a situation where you could potentially lose the opportunity.
Well, we put, excuse me, Madam Chair, can I speak?
No, go ahead.
Okay. I know we will probably lose the opportunity because the funders were quiet that this is, if it cannot happen within a short period of time, because we basically wanted it to be a partnership of government, foundations, and you know, philanthropy, and as well as business. And so right now we have that, and I don't know if we will have that again. And we also, HRSA is also giving money for under the capital, the Recovery Act. And so that does not delay. So we either are going to apply for the grant or we miss the opportunity. So we have a very short window, and that's why we've worked with staff very hard on this so that we would not miss these opportunities.
And I just, I just want to, and the commitment from the funder, if commitment is, you know, they actually already approved portions of the funding, because when it comes to healthcare and communities, we have to get people access to healthcare. I mean, time is of the essence, and we saw that with COVID-19, how many people died because the preventative, they weren't healthy, they were diabetic, high blood pressure, things of that nature. And to the extent that they said, hey, we want you to start this quick, and actually gave us a grant to start services in March at the Molly Wilmot building, where we're currently providing pediatrics with Dr. Jones. They want us to do family medicine there and provide transportation from Riviera Beach there while we build the health center. So that's the level of commitment that we have from this funder. We also received a $1 million grant from Johnson & Johnson to purchase a mobile van to bring within the confines of Riviera Beach to raise awareness of the health center coming while we build the health center. So there's been a lot of work, time, effort, and energy completely centered on providing this care to Riviera Beach. And I respect that it's a difficult decision. I understand. You know, I used to be a city commissioner back home, so I know that these decisions are difficult, and there's never a magic answer. But when a person comes to you and says, I want to provide a health center for you, to provide services to the 36,000 people living in your town that are going without care, it's, you know, and I get it. I know it's a challenging decision, but it's a great opportunity.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I think during the last meeting, I made mention of, you know, taking a look at other areas as well, for the very same reasons that Dr. Votel and Councilman Lawson stated. But I do understand, and I can appreciate the value that you all will bring to the community. So for me, it's not a very difficult decision, because I know what was there before was not very, it wasn't a good look anyway. And then, you know, the city went through changes in terms of getting that parcel, that particular building torn down. As Ms. Evans stated, it's been vacant property for a very long time. You know, I was thinking about other areas that could have gone in, but if we have done all that we can to try to make it work, or trying to find other areas to put it in, we have not been able to do that, I can support, you know, the building coming there, providing the services for those that are in the community, and just listening to the things that you all have stated of how I know that a lot of work has been put into this. And you know, I would hope that we had made this very clear on the front end, that we were just totally against this area, and then, you know, all of this work wouldn't have been put into it. So because of all of that, my consideration for having it there will stand as a yes. But I certainly want to make sure that going forward, that it's very clear that what the vision is for the council of trying to bring up the Broadway corridor is to bring in more affordable housing. Residents are able to have that downtown that we're looking for. So going forward, that I think is the expectations for us to try to make that happen. But I'm certainly in favor of having Foundcare go there.
I'd also like to say that I'm certainly in favor of this federally qualified health center, which is actually a hospital. Having access to health care, people on the south end maybe can get to St. Mary's or maybe can get to JFK, but on the north end, there is nothing on that end unless you go into Jupiter. So to be able to have health care in this area, to have a health center in Riviera Beach is actually a gift. There is very, very minimal access to health care for African Americans in particular. And, you know, people who work every day but can't afford insurance in general. So we really have to look at the fact that we have a city made up of people who, you know, work every day but they can't afford insurance. We have people who are living in this city who can afford insurance but can't afford an emergency room with those high copays. So we have to really look at this in a sense that this brings something to the city that is going to help us to access health care. Now, when we're talking about healthcare, we have to understand that in order for us to enjoy this reimagine, in order for us to, you know, move forward with reimagining the city of Riviera Beach, we have to be healthy. So we have to be able to have something in this city that the residents can take the bus to, can walk to, on that end or on that side of town. So I'm certainly for this health center, and you know, I call them little mini hospitals because you can go there and just like you would go to St. Mary's or to JFK. These are places that we need to have in our city so that people won't have hesitation because they can't afford to go to a hospital. People go to the hospital and emergency rooms because they're on their last leg. And to be able to have access to health care here where you don't have to wait until you're sick to be able to go to the hospital is something that we certainly should embrace for this city. So I certainly support moving forward with having a health care and having access to health care here in this city.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I just echo your sentiments with Foundcare. I wholeheartedly support their efforts. I just want to state Foundcare was the first organization to bring COVID testing to the city of Riviera Beach. And through that relationship, I had an opportunity to go speak at the Palm Springs location with Councilwoman Lois Frankel. One of the things after visiting and them showing me their facility, and you said it, it's a mini hospital that, you know, it really shouldn't matter where we put it at if it's for our residents, because we have that need to keep our residents healthy. And so for that conversation, I want to give echoes to Mr. Evans. We all met. And one thing I told him in my speech is I want to get a Foundcare here in Riviera Beach. And so I'm very excited that we're even in this conversation and looking forward to really bringing you guys here to serve our community. So I'm 100% behind you guys. Thank you.
I think, let me say this as well. This is a state-of-the-art healthcare facility, and we really have to start thinking differently about these type of facilities. This is not a clinic. This is not a, a fly-by-night place where you can go in and get patched up. This is a full-fledged health center, hospital slash, you can go and get a primary doctor. You can go and get access to healthcare the way you need to be able to have access to healthcare, and that this is a significant amenity to the development of our downtown. We need to be able to have this access, and to be able to just dismiss it because of the location is something that we cannot afford. We are looking to, enhance our downtown, and that does that. This is not, you really have to rethink the way you think about health centers. Because, when people think of hospitals and they think of clinics, they think of something totally different. And these type of health centers that have wellness and they have access to other types of mental health services, then we need to be able to embrace that, especially when they're coming to the table with their own money. We don't want people coming here with their hands out. We've had enough of that. So in order for us to move forward, we need to be able to embrace when people come to the table and foot the bill for us to have access to health care.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
if I may, and I think it's germane to the conversation, is when we did have the discussions with Foundcare, the building that they presented is the building that staff told them was what we planned to put on that site if all things were perfect. And so they basically took the building, the site plan, and all the information that we provided when staff had charrettes and had discussions, and even in some of the early reimagined sessions, the facility that you see that they have proposed is the same facility that if we were going to activate the site, that at minimum, that was the standard that we would establish. And so that facility that they're showing you, that particular, is the one that has been provided by the staff. And one of the things that's important in the CRA plan, it talks about medical offices and these types of operations being consistent in the CRA plan. And the other thing about it is you're looking at an opportunity for pediatrics as well as dental. And that's something that is a huge benefit to the overall health of our community. And so the facility you see is actually the facility that staff wanted to see constructed on that particular site when we were looking to activate it ourselves.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I guess I want to be very clear. This is an absolute need in our community. We need this immediately. And I don't think my colleagues understand that I'm not dismissing this idea, nor am I negating the fact that this is not a need here in the city. I think it's more so the fact that we need to find the best location for this to make it accessible for our residents, for the future plans and development of what we have for our community, and get it done immediately. When we came to this last meeting, this discussion item was, can we find another location to get this done? This item is now before us again saying, no, we looked at 2 other locations and it didn't work. That wasn't what the direction was given. The direction was to find this location immediately and get this moving. So my question for you is, what is the absolute deadline for getting an approved location to allow for us to move forward with Foundcare?
Who are you asking that question to? City administration?
Anyone that can answer it, Madam Chair.
Okay, very good. Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, I'll try, if I may, I'll try to answer that. I can tell you that there have been, we're working with funders, and the asks have already started to be made of those funders, and commitments have already started to be collected by those funders. I don't know what will happen if I leave here today and I go to them and I say the site was not selected or this term sheet was not approved. I really don't, with all due respect, I don't know what the response was going to be. I could tell you that early on, when we started this process, there was a lot of emphasis from the funders that we try to find a lot on our own, that we try to purchase a lot on our own, that they would try to fund it if they could on their own, because they wanted to avoid this process. Myself, Ms. Bonet, we talked about that, and we said one of our contingencies was we want to work with the city. It's important that the government is involved in it because we want to make it a true partnership. We don't want to try to go at this alone and try to purchase a property. We actually looked at a property early on, and it was just, it didn't work. Every boundary was a right-of-way, and it just didn't, it didn't work. So we thought that this was the prudent way to work with the municipality, because we understand that the municipality has a lot of really good plans. There's a lot of good things happening in Riviera Beach. I think the council should be commended, and the mayor and the administration for the direction you're going in. We see that, and we want to be part of that. But we also understand you want to have a healthy community. And Madam Chair, I agree with you. This isn't we're not asking to put a secondhand clinic here. This is a state-of-the-art facility. That's how we operate, and that's what we bring to the table.
And I want to say that the direction that was given, it was presented, when you guys first got here, it was presented with those options or those other sites that the city has exhaustively went around the city to try and figure out where could this go, other than where it is now. And that, given that exhaustive search in terms of where it could go, this is the location that they picked. It had the access to the bus line, and I understand that the development in that area is building up, but to have, and as I said, and I say again, you have to rethink these types of facilities, because I think that what people have in their mind is that this is some type of clinic that's going to be overrun with people standing outside or whatever the case may be. But this is a full-fledged health center that offers everything from pediatrics to, and believe me, people, to how much dental costs. To have access to be able to get dental in your own city at a fraction of the cost is something that we would welcome just on that alone. So I just really wanted to make sure that the public and this board understood the importance of accepting this gift that we have to be able to have something of this caliber in our city that our residents can be able to patronize.
And
So, Madam Chair, go ahead.
Hold on one second.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. Have you entertained the notion of collaborating with a developer? Maybe it's not necessarily the site, and I'm interested to hear from Mr. Evans that it was our own staff that proposed this design, because that may have been it may have been the case that design would have been appropriate a year ago. But given the new development that we see happening at the north end of Broadway, it seems to me it's no longer appropriate. If we're going to have 20-plus, 26-story buildings maybe right across the street, why wouldn't we think about having a bigger building, a taller building there? Maybe there could be apartments for older people upstairs. I'm just thinking right off the top of my head. Maybe a developer would want to put condos above it. I mean, who wouldn't want to live where you could walk downstairs and see a doctor without even getting in your car? I mean, there are possibilities here that I would like to see you explore. If we vote on this tonight, it's going to go down. I mean, everybody can count, right? I don't want that to happen. I want to see you succeed. I want this in Riviera Beach. I would think that if we postpone it, just table it for maybe a month until you have an opportunity to find other developers with whom you could work to see this site be what we think, I think at least two of us think it should look like. I mean, it could be comparable to the other buildings that are going in on North Broadway. And you may even find that the developer of the Nautilus project across the street would be someone who would want to partner with you and build it up so that you've got your medical center, hospital, if you will, on the first floor, and then something above it that would be comparable to the other buildings that are going in up there. So it would be my recommendation that we postpone this, that we table this until our next meeting, if you're amenable to that suggestion, and if you think that we can hold on to your funders for another month and put you together with some developers who might want to partner with you and make this a project that looks more like what's going to be happening up on the north end of Broadway.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
With respect to the conversation with developers and other parties, well, and I want to go back to the property review. We had an exhaustive process where we actually sat in a conference room and looked at every property that we own, and then we toured each site, and we came to this site. So there was a lot of intentionality as to how we got to this. It wasn't just, hey, it's a blank piece of land and let's go. We actually, every property that we own and properties we didn't own, we even talked about the possibility to facilitate a conversation with the property owners. With respect to a developer, we had conversations with a county operation that was looking to relocate to the city of Riviera Beach to provide service because they saw the synergy that can be created with Foundcare and the city and the partnership. And because of the process that the county would have to go through to get funds and to work through the nuances of the approval process, it wasn't something that was consistent with the funders, and they did not want to lag. And when we first started having conversations with representatives from Foundcare, there was, we want to work with the city, but we don't want it to be an exhaustive process because we know the zip codes we need to provide, and we can go across the street or down the street and acquire property and build the clinic there. And we did not want to lose out on the opportunity to have something like that in Riviera Beach. And so we understand that there is a big vision and there is a long-term plan for the Broadway corridor, but also you need to have situations where you have single-family residential that abuts that property, and you cannot do spot zoning that's against the law, and you don't want to create a situation where it's a canyon effect where you have 8 or 12 or 24-story buildings lining that particular corridor. It's adjacent to a car lot right now, and then McDonald's and the Dollar Tree, which are one-story facilities. Obviously, we'd like to see redevelopment occur, but I think if we walk away from this opportunity, you will see a situation whereby in order to facilitate more density and intensity on that site, there's some concessions that will have to be made, whether it's more capital we would have to bring to the table or some type of monies to make the development work. For example, 2600 Broadway, the property, the old BB&T building that the city owns, in order to facilitate a mixed-use development on that particular site, we would either have to give them the property or bring $2 million cash to the table to make the economics work. So we do want to see economic development occur, but there is that finite amount of, hey, what's the economics and does it make sense? And, you know, do you have a situation whereby the city is willing to subsidize private development to a degree? And so it was a pretty extensive process, but I would have to defer to Foundcare if a postponement of this particular issue runs the risk of losing the opportunity.
Thank you so much. And I just really want to say that, you know, in terms of rethinking how we look at these type of facilities, I really hope that this is not a NIMBY type of situation where because we're having, you know, kind of luxury on this side and it's going to be a health center on this side, that maybe not, we don't want that in that type of neighborhood. So I'm hoping that's not what this is. I just want to be able to make sure that because we have someone who is willing to bring a health center, a qualified federal health center, to the city of Riviera Beach for access to our residents, and they have funders who are ready to fund this, that we don't miss this opportunity.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So I'm not going to entertain that comment about the hope that this is not a health center on one side or facility on the other. It's 18 years of real estate. I understand that this location is prime real estate. Those parcels right now are selling for anywhere between $7 and $10 million and up. The ad valorem tax, that could be for the property development. So just understand the basic concept. And growing up, going to different facilities, different areas, I actually wouldn't agree with Madam Chair's comments about the location and where we prefer to put certain things. I would like to give direction to Mr. Evans to simply find us another location. I understand that you did do a lengthy search, but we don't want to lose this opportunity. I do have a question, though, for the status of Treasure Coast planning and see what the suggestions and where we're going to have suggestions for the development of the Broadway corridor, Mr. Evans. When are we going to have that back?
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, go ahead.
They're going to have community charrette meetings here at the end of January with a presentation to the board. I believe your second meeting in February.
So that's when we'll get back a report as to the intensities and densities, the development, and what we're looking to do with the Broadway corridor, correct?
That is correct. They will provide you with recommendations.
So, Madam Chair, to answer your concern, We're waiting on some insight from Treasure Coast and what we're looking to develop for Broadway. I don't want to railroad through an amazing project. I'd like to find us a prime location that can actually get done, but we've been discussing getting back the zoning, the intensities and densities for Broadway for about 2 years now. We just want to see what we're going to develop, not having that valley approach. And even as my colleague said, maybe even looking at a different design where we're looking at a 3, 4, 5-story building there where we can have additional space. We want to invest and put money into our Broadway core and develop it. But Mr. Evans has recently addressed, I believe, bringing our police station to Broadway, bringing our city hall to Broadway, and bringing Foundcare to Broadway. That's taking off 3 or 4 parcels of land off of our major corridor that has some of the highest taxable value in our city. So the ad valorem tax and increase that we're looking to build with this economic boom and with this real estate development boom is the only reason that I'm saying find a different location. We could find it on 2 streets over in an adjacent lot. I just think that downtown corridor is the real estate that we want to capitalize on versus a 1-story building when we know that's not the vision. So I hope that addressed some of the concerns, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead, sir.
just a position of clarity, this particular parcel is already off the tax roll, as well as the property where City Hall will be located. And if we move the police department to the BB&T building, 2001 Broadway, that property will still remain on the tax roll because the arrangement would be a situation where they will still have primary ownership. We will be a tenant, and at the end of the agreement, then it will be remitted back to the city, so taxes still would be paid on that property.
So, Madam Chair, just to follow up to
Just
answer that.
1 second, sir. Let me let Ms. Botel go, and you can go after her.
I mean, I'm looking at this building and I'm thinking, doctor's offices upstairs. You could have 3 floors, 3 or 4 floors of doctor's offices. I mean, it would fit, it would make sense. I don't know. I would just love to see, I want this in the city. I really want it. It's important for the city. But not that right there. So you know, and as I say, I would love to give you the opportunity to have a month to try to find somebody who would work with you to make that vision happen.
Well, all due respect,
Go ahead.
I won't be here.
Well,
And I don't have no skin in the game. But as an outsider, soon to be, I can tell you that in conversation with the funders, we had this conversation with the funders, and they were very clear and adamant that this process is probably not going to work. And we convinced them that it was going to work. And we actually then, you know, attempted to make it work. And I think we've come a long way, and staff has been a blessing to this project. But I can tell you that I don't think any funder is going to give us another $8 million, because this whole project, that little building, which you know, we want to increase, that alone was projected that we would need $11 million to build it.
Madam Chair, now, I wasn't thinking your funders would do that. I'm thinking a partner, a development partner would do that and then get the benefit of having the leases from the doctor's offices or whatever some developer could envision upstairs. So it wouldn't be that your funders, I'm talking about like a, what do you call it, P3 project when the city's not involved, a P4 project? I mean, this would be a private entity, a healthcare, let's see, a PH3 project, I don't know, you know what I mean. It's a project that you would get into partnership with a developer and your funders. The funders would fund the medical portion of it, and the developer would fund the extension to provide for either condos upstairs. We're hesitating to put in any more rental units in the city because we want to encourage home ownership, but something upstairs that would give that more height and that fits with our whatever we're going to get from Treasure Coast Regional Planning in terms of, you know, what they see as the best, highest and best use for these properties on Broadway. So that's, I don't want to see this go down.
Okay.
And this looks like.
Neither do we, trust me. But Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
I just, we're not in the development business, I'll be honest. I mean,
Right.
we're a community health center who works, we work really hard to try to provide service to our patients, and it's a hard job. A lot of time, effort, and energy has gone into trying to bring this project here to this wonderful city. And whether this works or it doesn't, I know we did our best and left it all on the table. the right reasons. And unfortunately, I think if I were to go back, and I love the fact that we're having the dialogue to try to come up with a solution that works for everyone on the dais. But if I can very confidently explain and express that if I go back to the funders and say, we're gonna, they want to go up, this is what's needed here for them, and this is what fits in their plan, they don't, there's no, it just wouldn't work, so.
Also, Madam Chair, may I add a note? Now, they are nonprofit. It is not unusual that government do such things with a not-for-profit, okay?
Right.
When we bring in private parties on public land, we lose some of that public purpose. Whether or not we will have to go through a bid process, it is not as easily as been stated, and I don't want us to walk away from here thinking that it possibly could go down with us not having to even carve out a different process for this to occur. So
Right.
I've stayed quiet as long as I could. Okay.
Right.
Madam Chair.
That would mean that they would have to go back to the drawing board and start all over, and that's exactly what would happen. Miller Anderson?
I want to make sure I'm very clear. I do hear the concerns from Councilman Lawson and Councilwoman Botel, but I just want to make sure that, I've been a part of boards where we have not been able to make decisions and unfortunately have gotten a reputation of not moving forward with things. And I think we did a very good job over the last few years of actually moving forward with things and making decisions. We're talking about a service to the community. Now, I certainly understand your concern in terms of where the location is. But if they have done all of this legwork, I just think that this is something that should have been very clear to staff from the very beginning. This is not what we want. And then they could have had an opportunity to just scrap the plan early on. And they could have moved on to, I'm sure, other cities will be more than happy to take them. So when we shut things down, we have to make sure we realize that just because we're here, a part of this meeting, and those who are watching, it rolls out to other people that would be interested in doing things with us. And having been up here before where there have been many times when people do not even want to deal with the city, I don't want us to start going backwards and having that same reputation. But I certainly respect your position, but I just keep in mind that they're coming to offer a service. It probably is not the best place, and I think I brought that up before, but knowing that this has been a long process for them, they've looked at other areas, and this is where we are today. I just want to make sure that if it does not pass, and they're dealing with funders. People don't have time. When you're talking about money, they don't have time to sit here and wait for us to figure out, another month, another 2 weeks, and I'm sure you all have been a part of other stuff where you know that time is money. And to actually ask them to wait, I think that's on us if we didn't make this clear, a little while ago. So I just don't want us to start going backwards. So whatever you decide is up to you all.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to move forward with a vote because, we can talk this to death, and you met with us months ago with this project. You made sure that you reached out to every council person, sat with us, went through this whole process with us. We've been to the council 3 times since in terms of this particular project. So it is what it is, but I certainly it would be a disservice to the city to not move forward with this and to let some other city reap the benefits of a federal
Madam Chair?
health center.
I have a question for
Yes, sure.
our city attorney. If I am on the prevailing side on this vote, I can raise the issue again at our next meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Very good. Madam Clerk.
Councilperson Lawson,
No.
Councilperson Botel,
No.
Chair Pro Tem Miller Anderson,
Yes.
Chairperson Lanier.
Yes.
That's a tie vote that fails.
Very good. Thank you so much for your
Thank you very much.
presentation.
Thank you so much.
Madam Chair, could I just do a recognition for Ms. Bonet?
Yes.
I would like, Ms. Bonet, would you put up that slide that showed your history over the years? And I want to just make this notation. My first career was in the healthcare area. So as we started working on this project, I decided to research federally qualified health centers. If you just show your timeline for the development of your organization, and basically they became what is known as that lookalike status in 2010, and under Ms. Bonet's leadership, they got to be granted full status in 2013. And statistically, I need we have in this nation, according to their site, 140-some thousand lookalikes, and only like slightly over 1,300 federal qualified healthcare centers. And this was achieved under her leadership as the director, and I just think it was a wonderful accomplishment.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. And she's retired.
Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. We're going to, we have two more items left on our agenda, but we have to pause for public comment. So please be reminded, the City Council has adopted rules of decorum, public conduct during official meetings, which has been posted at the front desk. In an effort to preserve order, if any of the rules are not adhered to, the council chair may have any disruptive speaker or attendee removed from the podium, from the meeting, and/or the building if necessary. Please govern yourselves accordingly. Public comment shall begin at 7:30 p.m. unless there is no further business of the city, which in the event it shall begin sooner. In addition, if any item is being considered at 7:30 p.m., then comments from the public shall begin immediately after the item has been concluded. Any person who would like to speak during public comment, please fill out a public comment card located at the front desk and give it to the staff before the public comment section is announced. Madam Clerk.
The acceptance of public comment cards is now closed. First is Mr. John Clayton, Dr. Robert Brooks Hamilton, and Elvis Downs.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Clayton, and I live on 1809 Avenue E in Riviera Beach. I would like to speak tonight regarding the proposed site for our new police station at 2001 Broadway. And I would like to offer a couple of alternative sites which I think would better serve the residents. The first option is the vacant land across from my home on Avenue E in between 18th and 19th Streets. If the city can acquire the vacant drive-through bank teller section, I think that would be a more than adequate piece of land to build the new station. The second option would be the current City Hall site. Once City Hall is demolished, the police station could be housed there. I think it's a big mistake to take a 6-story office tower and completely close it off to private enterprise. The last thing I would like to discuss tonight is regarding the two iconic brick buildings that are currently on the 2001 Broadway site, better known as BB&T, and have been an institution in my neighborhood for over 60 years. To give you a brief history, Jerry Thomas was the founder of First Marine Bank, which built the 2-story brick building on 21st Street. He built the largest bank holding company in Palm Beach County, headquartered here in Riviera Beach. A comparison to that would be like what Seacoast Bank is in Martin County. He was also the author of our Sunshine Law in 1967, which all of us attending this meeting are now utilizing. We don't have many historic structures left in this city.
Sir, let me stop the clock, please, right now. We have to have a quorum for this meeting to continue. We need to have another member here. I think they went to the restroom. So give us 1 second,
of course.
because we cannot have this meeting continue without a quorum. So just give me 1 second. We're going to pause the clock. We're going to take a 2-minute brief recess until one of our members at least comes back. We're going to go ahead and get started again. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Okay. We don't have many historic structures left in this city. Granted, the 2 brick buildings are technically not historic, but they are to all of us in my area, and we're tired of seeing our history demolished by developers who have not grown up in our city. We were suckered into demolishing the old Riviera Beach Elementary School on 13th Street by the Boys and Girls Club, and the place where the school once stood is nothing more than a drainage basin. I'm all for redevelopment, but not at the expense of our history. While many of those listening may not particularly care about what I'm saying tonight, but wait until a group of developers comes to your neighborhood and has their eyes on something you care about. Our history is worth preserving for future generations. Both old and new can coexist without one giving way to the other. And in the closing few seconds, I would probably reiterate a previous comment I made a while back regarding the old Community Federal Savings Building on the corner of Broadway and Blue Heron. I think that building is worth rehabbing and restoring as well. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what building was that?
It's better known as the BB&T building. I still call it the Community Federal Building.
Thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk?
Yes, Ms. Desha Brooke Hamilton?
I can't hear you.
Ms. Deshia? Yes. I
Ms.
apologize.
Brooks?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Delcia Brooks Hamilton, and I started this process with the restaurant for 7 years now. I responded to an LOI that was placed in the Palm Beach Post, August 28, 2015. I did everything that I was told to do. I got my developer, I came down to the site, toured the site, got my investor to come in, and here it is, 7 years later. I am still waiting. I am still waiting. I was told that the reason I could not build my restaurant is because there was no parking space. So how can the city put out a request for proposal and there's no parking space? Now, moving forward, I was told that I needed to work with the master developer, and that master developer was selected, and that is Tony Brown and Ezra. I have submitted my LOI to Ezra, to Mr. Irons, which was the master developer, and I have not gotten a response from them. Now, I was told that I needed parking space, so in order for me to put my restaurant, I said, well, let me go ahead and get my developer to come in and build a parking garage. I have spoken to every council member, including the city manager, with my developer, and here it is, I'm still waiting. We have the money to build the restaurant and the parking garage, and the city doesn't need to, put any money. My developer has all the money to do this. So I am asking the council this evening to place it on the record, and I'm asking for a response from council.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll have the city manager to address those comments after public comment.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We will have the city manager to address any comments during public comment after everyone is finished.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
I still have 34 seconds.
Sure.
I just want to mention that this is my rendering, and I have my site plan. It cost me thousands of dollars. And this is my letter of intent that was submitted to the city. It was submitted to the developer, the master developer, and no one has gotten back to me. And the people of Riviera Beach is looking for a restaurant so that they can spend their money here and not in the surrounding communities. And I'm committed to that process, so.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair?
could you
Just-
wait?
He just had a question to the speaker, if she could just give a copy of that over to the clerk. So we can
Okay,
just have a-
very good.
Ms. Delcia?
Ms. Brooks, you can give a copy of that. You want the council to see those renderings, you can give it to the.
Copy of the
city
letter
clerk.
and your renderings. Just give it to the clerk. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Dr. Robert Brooks Hamilton.
Good evening, members of the City Council, ladies and gentlemen. I am Dr. Robert Brooks Hamilton, and I just came back from Africa, where I was for 2 years. I am Delcia Brooks Hamilton's older brother. I have spent thousands of dollars to develop plans, specification, drawings. We've been in this process 7 years. And it's imperative that the city look at its previous commitment that is made to Delcia Brooks Hamilton regarding her project to build a restaurant down at the waterfront. Tony Brown, who is now, I understand, one of the members that have been given the contract, was at the time the CRA director, who basically approved the site plan for Delcia down at the marina. You cannot just arbitrarily do a new request for proposal, dismiss her, when thousands of dollars of my family have been spent. 3 of my brothers and sisters invested money. We did drawings. We did development projects. She has the rendering. I paid for architect drawings. And at the time, the mayor of the city, basically what the city council kind of committed to her, and we kept through this process. So there might be litigious reasons why the city should do the proper thing at this juncture. And if Tony Brown at the time was the CRA director, which was eliciting request for proposal, cannot now come in on the tail end and then take over this process, it doesn't work legally that way. So I'm impressed tremendously with the faces I see in front of me today, and I mean that literally. Martin Luther King would be just ecstatic. All colors and races, let's do the right thing. And let's not boots Delcia Brooks Hamilton project out, which has been around for 7 years. And people who work for the city cannot now come in afterwards, which she went to discuss her proposal, and then at the rear end, benefit from that process. So there's a conflict of interest there. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you hear the tenor of my voice. I came all the way from Africa just to do this presentation. I thank you for your time and your effort, and hopefully we can do the right thing and not be caught in a quagmire unnecessarily. Think about it, please. Analyze it. I'll spend the last dollar that I have to make sure the right thing is done. Thank you. I'm impressed. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you for your comments, sir.
Mr. Elvis Downs and Miss Cindy March.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, and the people of Riviera Beach. My name is Elvis Downs. I am the son of Delcia Brooks Hamilton, which is the CEO of Pangea Grill Restaurant. I stand before you here today to ask the City Council to support and include Pangea Grill in the current development to be the premier restaurant for the Riviera Beach project, which was promised to her originally years ago. My mother was the first and only responder to respond to the original RFP put out in 2015 for minority restaurant operators. This RFP was for minority restaurant operators to build their own restaurant on the marina. This RFP was incorrect. This RFP was incorrect because there was no parking to suffice the restaurant crowd after the restaurant was built. The city ultimately could not get the parking garage over the time and decided to put out the RFP for a master developer. Due to this decision from the city, caused my mother to almost lose her investor, which is committed to a $2 million investment to build out the restaurant, which was technically a devastating blow. My mother's investor stayed by her side to work with the new developers that were selected to build out the entirety of the project. The city advised that my mother deal with the new developers to get her restaurant built. She reached out to Mr. Irons, who was put in charge of the restaurant build-out. We reached out over the years and never got a response. It is clear that they did not want to work with her, at least to my calculation. So, city, this is a cry for help because the direction from the city to deal with the awarded master developers was not successful. There is nothing more that we can do. We did everything requested. It wasn't my mother's wrongdoing to why the restaurant wasn't built. It was due to the city's mistake. With that being said, if anyone deserves rightfully to be the premier restaurant of Riviera Beach, it's my mother. She has been here for 7 years. She has been persistent, consistent, and determined. If possible, I would like a response on record if this could be granted, that we have so that we have assurance moving forward, because up to this point, we have been kept in the dark. From the last meeting in December, what I calculated from that meeting was that the current master developers needed financial assistance from the city in regards to the residential portion. Our developer, A&F Development Group, which has, since their inception, over 1 million square feet of commercial real estate development experience in multiple asset classes, would be able to assist in that aspect of the development in the event Tony Brown or the city does not want to accept the offer of dishing out money for that part of the project. So,
Thank you so much, sir, for your comments.
I appreciate it very much.
We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Next will be Ms. Cindy March and then Ms. Betsy Brown.
Good evening.
I just want to say, when you set a rule, you have to set it for everybody. I was escorted out of here with the last meeting, but I wasn't the one just holding the conversation alone. The person that's with me tonight, she wasn't told to be escorted out of here, and I don't think that was fair. Not only that, Betsy Brown stood there and talked for about 3 to 4 minutes. Nobody intervened and escorted them out. So when you set a rule, just set it for everybody, because I'm not here to disrespect nobody, but do treat me fairly, because I'm going to speak what's on my mind. And also, if your heart is in Riviera Beach, and if you're running for office, your business ought to be in Riviera Beach for some revenues. And I heard one of the person that's running against Felder say in the last meeting, she don't know, why don't nobody know about her? Because all of her business down in West Palm. Just like you all said, I didn't stay in Riviera. My heart always been here, and I always lived here. So let's not start battering people about why don't nobody know about you. And I know Felder Hart is in Riviera Beach, and he have my support with a whole lot of other people's support. So we will stand tall with Felder to be reelected coming March. It is so important to cast a vote for Felder. Also, over there on 15th Street, I think, Mrs. Miller, that's your area. And the only reason why I'm bringing it up, not because it's your area, because I hate to see a catastrophe. They have the cones out where that hole don't came back up again, the sinkhole, and it can be a head-on collision. So somebody really needs to look into that. Also, I want to thank the young ladies that helped me with getting my money, but I do want to bring up an issue with customer service. I have dealt with a lot of jobs, and my pet peeves, whether I'm spending my money or not, if I come to you all with pleasantries, I want the same treatment. If I disrespect you, then I'm looking to be disrespected. But every day I went into that office for them emails, I can say, Tawana, and a couple of more others, Deborah Hall and the other white lady, they gave me nothing but pleasantries. Even though they have not delivered what I asked for, the other person already paid for it, the link is still broken. It needs to be taken care of because we still want them emails. And the water department, everybody not computer literate. I am, but sometimes people come to pay their water bill, they got their grandmama, they might got their old elderly mama out sitting in the car, they can't get change. And sometimes, like I went the other day, when I went about my money, I said, since I'm over here, let me go pay my water bill because I don't get the bill. I'm approaching the window. Oh, you got to go use the machine. Don't know what I want. That's not the way you treat customers. I mean, I know y'all need to have a workshop, Because I'm telling you, y'all gonna get somebody up there ain't gonna be as nice as me. See, I've been in customer service, and my job is I'm not gonna let you snatch the fork out my mouth. So I'm gonna treat you with pleasantries, because I might not have to deal with you no more in life, but I'm not gonna lose my job because I got a personal vendetta or because I don't know how to treat
you
people.
so
You
much.
treat people the way you want to be treated.
Thank you so much, Ms. March, for your comments.
Ms. Betsy Brown and Ms. Bonnie Larson.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm here tonight. I wasn't here earlier, but I heard that, but can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I wasn't here earlier, but I wanted to know, I heard that they're gonna make Wells a health center. You know, I really am sick and tired of them. You all, really, talking about making Wells a health center. Wells needs to stay a gym and remain that way. And because the children don't have anything to do anyway, as it is. And if you get rid of that, then you only got Tate. And there's nothing going on in the city for the children. And about the restaurants, the front of the building here has never been completed. The restaurant has never been completed. And the one on the bottom is not even completed because it's half of what the one on the bottom should have been. You all need to really take a look at the previous plan and really try to work on that. And I don't know why we have Tony Brown back here. I really don't. Because the first, this is incomplete. He was here when that's why we have the stuff here that's incomplete. And we have all that space out there on the water that you could put a restaurant out there. There's nothing over there. Basically, I'm late. I was running. I had some things to do. But basically, and Station 88, I think Station 88 is on Blue Heron and Congress. I just want to know the status of that because I missed that. And I'll call Jonathan Evans about that. But basically, you all need to do better about the stuff that's going on at the CRA. Really, 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 really. Because you got people calling about stuff that they're being charged for and nobody's responding. Who's over it? Who's really running it? That's what I'm saying. But basically, I'm just here tonight just to say, a little bit. But I wish you would, I would really love to talk to Jonathan Evans about Wells.
Thank you so much for your comments.
Ms. Bonnie Larson and Ms. Brenda Brown.
Bonnie Larson, about a week or so ago, somebody pounded on our front door. We never answer the front door. A lot of weird people hanging around there, so we never answer. That's just our policy. Then I heard from one of my neighbors that those two guys had gone up in our side property, 115 feet back. No trespassing signs we've had to have for a couple years now because people do not respect property boundaries. Those two guys are back 115 feet in our property. So I said, A couple days go by, and I see one of the guys, and he was one of the guys I recognized. I could see him outside. He comes over to me, and he said, we're a subcontractor of Florida Power and Light. We need to go on your side property with a big truck. All right, so I said, well, let me think about that. Then I had a flashback to the last time that Florida Power and Light was on that property without our permission. They left, I'm telling you, they left ruts 3 feet deep. They got their trucks stalled in there. They put wood underneath it to try and get out of there. They left it like that, wood, big ruts like this. So I had that flashback. So I wrote to the guy, I texted him, and I said, no, can't do it again. In order for it not to happen, we put up a cable in the front of the yard. The big trucks would not go in there. Don't even think about it. Well, I come home the other day. I went out for a cup of coffee, come home. Guess what? All our posts and our cable are laying there in the yard Our no trespassing sign is flung over there. I called the police. Look at this, what somebody did here. I had an idea it was them, even though I told them no. Sure enough, it was them. So I called the police and I said, look what they did to our property. Police came. I'm really upset with this policeman. He came, and then the contractors came back again, and he said, you can go on there. If she doesn't let you on there, I'll arrest her. No problem. All right? This is a bad apple for Riviera Beach. He sat there all day long until 4 o'clock. He brought other people in. He brought in 4 people from the district, not the utility district, the other one. He brought 4 people in there, and he said, I want you to take down it's an 80-year-old tree in the back of our property, 115 feet back. He brought them in to cut down our tree. He called code enforcement. Meanwhile, I'm trying to get his boss, couldn't get anybody at the city to do anything or even answer the phone. So we worked it out, and I said to the guys, okay, you got 2 people that can go in the property, and I'm going with them. I'm not going through this again. He brings all those other people in from the city. What right does he, as a policeman, have to say anything about our tree? Who does he think he is? Tell people to cut down our stuff. Bad apple. I got a lot more to talk about.
Yes, thank you so much for your comments.
Miss Brenda Brown.
Good evening, Council. Preferably all is well. I would like to address the lighting situation on the west side of Riviera Beach. The lighting down Gardens Road, there's no lighting there at night, and the visibility is very poor for driving. Also, I would like to address, and I don't know whether it has been taken care of because I haven't been in that area for a while, but the bridge on Congress, for a period of time, there has not been any lighting there as well. And also, I would like to piggyback off the young lady earlier who was saying that we need to bring more businesses to Riviera Beach, because a lot of times we have to go to Palm Beach Gardens or West Palm for simple things like a nail shop. We don't even have a nail shop here in Riviera Beach. We don't have a shopping plaza here in Riviera Beach. I know there's a lot of projects going on and you have a set agenda for a lot of things that you're doing, but you need to think about addressing some of those things. We need to keep our money in Riviera Beach. We don't always need to go to West Palm or Palm Beach Gardens. And also, mainly what we have here in Riviera Beach is a conglomerate of convenience stores and gas stations. We have a slew of them, but we need other businesses as well. We have a lot of property here for other things to be built, like the lady was saying, restaurants, and we need to keep the money here. We don't always need to go to other cities. And also, I would like to address the fact that there's a dilapidated house located at 1432 West 35th Street. It used to be a recreational park building, I guess for the park for Goodman Park. It needs to be torn down because it's a haven for rodents. And not to mention maybe homeless people, I'm not sure, but definitely for rodents. And it also brings down the property value for those people who live in that particular block.
What is that address again?
Excuse me?
What is that address again?
The address is 1432 West 35th. It used to be part of Goodman, but it's no longer part of that. And lastly, I would like to thank you guys for restoring the lights in Goodman Park. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. William Wiley left for an emergency, so we're going to have our last speaker, which would be Fane Losman.
Okay.
Good evening, Fane Losman. I told you Judgment Day was coming 6 months ago. Well, Judgment Day is here. This week, the largest regulatory taking case in Florida history will be filed against the city of Riviera Beach. Myself has purchased over 20 acres of prime waterfront property that was zoned residential when it was purchased. Friends of mine purchased another 51 acres that was zoned residential when it was purchased. Julia Botel and Andrew Bauman have snowed the rest of the council members, the other 4 members, to vote to downzone the property. Hundreds of millions of dollars of potential residential development was cast aside because of a few homeowners on Pine Point Road. Many of you came to the property that said it should be developed. Deshaun Miller Anderson, before she was elected, she came to the property and said it would be great to have development along Pine Point Road and North Ocean Drive. Jonathan Evans met me at the property and said development would be great. Douglas Lawson met me at the property and said development would be great. There can be $500 million of mansions up and down North Ocean Drive on the west side of Pine Point Road. But no, Julia Botel and a small group of her supporters convinced these elected officials and the final policymakers to take away development rights. There is plenty of case law and laws that if you're going to inverse condemn property, you have to pay for it. Mayor Felder, for generations to come, the West Side will be paying a judgment on this regulatory taking case. Mr. Evans knew better, but yet he didn't stand up to Bauman. He didn't stand up to Botel. He didn't say, what are we getting ourselves into? I have Justice Scalia's former law clerk, a Harvard professor, a man who worked for the Solicitor General's office, a man who worked at Jones Day and their appellate division. He is my lead attorney. This city has no idea what mess you've made with Botel, taking away development rights, taking away our ability to keep trespassers off our property, taking away our right to electricity, taking our right to have a floating home on our property that was there before Botel ever showed up. She is going to bankrupt the city, or she's going to burden it with debts for the next 100 years that are going to have to be paid to these homeowners that have property in the Lake Worth area there, in the Lake Worth Lagoon. So everybody else, all Botel's buddies and Shirley Lanier's friends who built condos and built houses, that was okay. But they went and stepped out and convinced the 5 of you to take away those development rights. This is the biggest crisis this city has seen. It's a crisis that's going to go on for years to come. It's in a crisis that will ultimately end up at the U.S. Supreme Court again. The city will lose, and the West Side residents, Ms. Anderson, will be burdened by your...
Thank you so much, sir, for your comments. Is that public comment?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for public comment. Mr. Evans, could you respond to some of the issues brought up by the public?
Yes, Madam Chair. The city clerk has provided me that there were some questions with regards to the potential of the relocation of the police department. And certainly, we're in the due diligence and review process, and then ultimately having follow-up conversations with the community, and then bringing that information back to you all and looking at the historical preservation component and element of that to see if the facility does qualify for that. And so that will be part of the review. With respect to the restaurant, that has continued to be a point of discussion at public comments. If the board will indulge staff at the next CRA meeting, I would like for Mr. Scott Evans to provide some additional clarity with respect to the conversations and discussions that have occurred as a result of that restaurant. But one of the things that, the board has provided direction to staff is to move forward to the next phase with the joint development group. And so at this particular moment, it would be improper for us as the CRA or city to commit those restaurant pad sites as that was incorporated in the overall solicitation. We will have legal also look at the original solicitation that was submitted and see if there's any issues with respect to how that solicitation was terminated or how the CRA decided to move in another direction. But I have had conversations with staff about there, and there's some additional moving pieces. So I would like to bring that to a point of clarity at your next CRA meeting. With respect to the Wells Recreation Center, and certainly anytime Ms. Brown would like to sit down and have the conversation about the Wells Recreation Center, I would welcome that discussion. But again, to reiterate, the point is that that facility, we're referring to it as a wellness center. Facilities are not called recreation centers anymore. They are called wellness centers because you're looking at it from a holistic approach. You're looking at it from nutrition. You're looking at it from biometrics. You're looking at it from physical activity. You're looking at it from all different, through all different prisms to look for a total a package. And so we would envision that the wellness center would have, you know, therapeutic pools and gymnasium and weights and the like, and everything that you would normally see at your recreation centers in the past, but also a lot of the new elements that are commonplace at a lot of your fitness centers and fitness clubs that people are memberships to. So it is something that would rival some of the things that you see on a university campus with respect to the classrooms and areas for persons to recreate and to become physically active and physically fit, and also a nutritional component. With respect to Fire Station 88, as communicated earlier, the groundbreaking for that particular facility is tentatively scheduled for, I believe, Tuesday, February 15th at 3 p.m. At your next regular meeting of the City Council, you will be presented with an agreement between Kaufman Lynn and the City of Riviera Beach that will consummate the relationship for the purposes of construction and letting the funds necessary to move forward with the $18+ million construction of Fire Station 88, with construction commencing probably shortly after that. I would say probably within 5 to 7 days after the groundbreaking, which is slated for February 15th. Ms. Larson communicated some concerns with respect to FPL accessing the property. That was some time when staff was out of town. Some staff was out of town related to Palm Beach County days. I have heard from the deputy city manager that was able to speak to Ms. Larson, and then I'm going to talk with the chief of police as it relates to what conversations were said and what was, if there was any damage that was done to the property. We will certainly reach out to FPL and have them cure the issue. Garden Road is a county road, so it would be something that we would have to push on the county for lighting on that particular roadway. I think we would all agree that that roadway is in desperate need of some improvements. We have a situation where we have tractor trailers that park there for extended periods of time, and they have actually eroded some of the banks of the roadway and caused for an issue where inevitably the roadway will end up failing. And so that's something that I've had conversations with the deputy county administrator. Also, PD did put out some other signage out there to deter 18-wheelers from parking there, but we can definitely see if there's any aesthetic improvements to include lighting that the county would be amenable to put in their capital improvements plan. And then we can look at the lights on the bridge going into West Palm, Mangonia Park and into West Palm, to see if the lighting is FDOT lighting, but we have a service agreement, so that may be under the service agreement. So we'll have staff take a look at that and try to address that. And then I will have a discussion with Development Services and Public Works on the property at 1432 West 35th Street to determine where we are as it relates to the nuisance abatement and code compliance process, and see if that property can't be scheduled for demolition to resolve that issue, especially if it's creating issues with rodents and vermin in the community. And that concludes my comments, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't think I heard, but the comment about the 15th Street with the pothole.
Yes, with respect to the pothole, I did send an email this evening once that occurred to the Public Works Director and Utility District staff to go out there and assess the situation and then to provide some remedies or resolve what those issues may be.
Well, see, the thing is that they just addressed it maybe about a week or two ago, but this area continues to fail. I think that is one of the areas that probably was last year sometime about the sinkholes because of the infrastructure under the road, but it continues to create a pothole, and like I said, they just repaired it a couple weeks ago. But the cones, the horses are out there, and it's in an area where people have to be paying attention, otherwise, as they mentioned, it could be a problem.
Okay, yeah, I'll have them do a more in-depth and find out what's the long-term solution with respect to that, and see if we need to cut out that piece of roadway and replace the piping that's in there and resolve it on the long term.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Are those all the issues that were addressed, Mr. Evans?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir. Next item, Madam Clerk, 11C.
Yes, Resolution 20-22, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Riviera Beach, Palm Beach County, Florida, authorizing the city manager and city clerk to execute an agreement between the City of Riviera Beach and the selected proposal for federal lobbying services as determined by the City Council, providing for an agreement for such services to be prepared by the city attorney, authorizing the Director of Finance to make payment for such services, providing an effective date, and for the other purposes. We have one public comment card, Madam Chair, on this item, and the acceptance of public comment cards are now closed.
Motion to approve resolution number 20-22.
Second.
Thank you.
Mr. Evans?
Madam Chair, members of the board, if I can have Deputy City Manager Elizabeth McBride make this presentation.
I'll see my picture.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair. Mayor and members of the council. With me is Ms. Glendora Williams, a senior procurement specialist who did work on this proposal for the city. The proposal for federal lobbying services was issued in September 2021, along with the proposal, a separate proposal seeking our state legislative lobbying services. Upon issuance of the proposal, we had 4 firms who responded. They consisted of our present lobbyists, Alcalde and Fay, Gray Robinson, Holland and Knight LLP, and Pittman Law Group together. And finally, Thorn Run Partners also responded. In November, the procurement staff reviewed the proposal, first looking at making sure all the proposals met the minimal qualifications required for even their bids to be reviewed. All 4 firms did meet the minimum qualifications. Staff review of the entire proposal indicated all the responding proposals were responsive. So the 4 moved forward for review by the evaluation committee. We had 5 senior staff members who did evaluation of the proposals. And based upon the evaluation, the top 2 were Gray Robinson and Alcalde and Fay, and the manager wanted us to bring the top 2 for you to receive presentations from tonight and to rank them 1 and 2. And hopefully, based upon your ranking, we will move forward to negotiate a contract with number 1. If not, then we'll move to number 2. And each proposal we had given them 10 minutes, okay, each. We thought that would be sufficient, given the services that they provide for us. And Ms. Williams will introduce the proposals.
Before you get started, we can have Walter, could you put the time clock up for the presentation?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
When you say the rankings, what procedure are we following in terms of doing that?
I think historically, when I say rank, you have 2. You will rank 1. One will get a 1 ranking.
Okay, so there's...
Yeah, and I would suggest use 1 as your number 1 choice and 2 as your second choice. And basically, the lowest number, I guess, possibly wins. Okay? If one team got all 5s.
Okay, but there's nothing
all
where...
1s, I'm sorry.
Yeah, do we have like a ballot or
Oh, I
something?
do have a ballot. We do have a ballot for you. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you want to give it?
No, we want to get the ballots first, Walter.
Okay, all right,
Okay, clerk, could you keep the time for 10 minutes, please?
10 minutes or 5?
Yes, 10 minutes per
Presenter,
presenter.
yes, per firm. And Madam Chair, I might just add, of the evaluation criteria that the staff used, it was the firm's qualification and experience, the project team's experience and qualification, past performance, they all submitted 5 references, approach to the project, cost proposal, and key partnerships. And hopefully, we were hoping that with this presentation, the firms could present to you information regarding their firm, their experience, capability, and expertise in the area. And from that, you would proceed to a ranking, and of course, you do not rely or have to utilize the scoring that city staff use, but certainly we hope you consider some of the factors that were used for the solicitation.
Good evening. The first firm will be Al-Qaeda and Faith, and Mr. Maurice Curlin will speak on behalf or introduce the other members as far as his part of his team.
Okay. I'll go ahead.
Good evening. Good evening. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir, you can go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and Chair Pro Tem, Council. On behalf of all of our firm, Al-Qaeda and Faye, we very much appreciate the opportunity to present our credentials and the consideration the city has given to us. I just want to, at the outset, say that, we have been extremely honored and proud to represent the city for the past 23 years, and with me this evening are my colleagues at the firm, both partners and associates. I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves. Some of them, you know their names, you've met with them before, and you've seen them on a number of our pieces of correspondence. So with that, I'm going to turn it immediately to our congressman and partner at the firm, Congressman Skip Baffalis.
Thank you, Maurice. For many of you, you probably don't realize, but I started representing the city of Riviera Beach in the state legislature many, many, many years ago, and have had the proud opportunity to continue that service for a number of years. And we were delighted back in 1998 when the city called us and said that they had a problem. They were spending over $880,000 a year to clean up their drinking water as a result of 2 facilities, Solatron and one other company. They were spending unbelievable amounts of money in order to get clean drinking water for the people of Riviera Beach. We were successful in getting the EPA to come in, investigate the matter, and took that $880,000 liability away from the city and put it where it belonged. So I'm not going to dwell more time. There are so many accomplishments that we have had for the city over the years. We're very proud of what they are. And I'm going to introduce now the president of our company, Nancy Proud.
I thank you, Skip. We are delighted to be able to meet with you, and we're honored to have had the opportunity to represent you for 23 years. I have to tell you that our firm was recognized a few years ago as being in the top 10 most influential lobbying firms in Washington, and one of the reasons that they cited it was because of the longevity of our clients. We keep our clients, but like you, for years and years. I had the honor of, I've represented the city of Virginia Beach for over 30 years. We have the experience, the knowledge. Our 20-person firm is dedicated totally to for advocacy and federal affairs, and we've specialized for our 48 years in representing municipalities and public bodies. As a matter of fact, we still have the very first client that Hector Alcalde, who founded the firm, started with the Port of Tampa 48 years ago. So we love the honor of continuing our representation for you. We take it very seriously, and our main mission is client service. And with that, I'll turn it over to our newest member of the team, Jeremiah.
Thanks, Nancy. Good evening. My name is Jeremiah Van Hawken. I'm an associate with Alcalde and Fay. I've worked in almost all levels of government on several re-election campaigns for both Ohio members, mayor, and state rep. Worked on city council in Cincinnati. Have been in 2 Senate offices, including the Senate Committee on Appropriations for 2 years prior to joining the firm. For the last year with Alcalde and Fay, I have been doing a lot of congressional outreach and providing appropriations expertise as needed to all the clients throughout the firm. And as an aside, I actually am from South Bend, Indiana, the hometown of the current Transportation Secretary, Buttigieg. While he was the mayor, he actually spoke to our high school econ class, which is part of the reason why I decided to pursue this career. So that's a little bit about me. I'll turn it back over to Maurice. We are excited to answer your questions.
And so I just wanted to briefly mention, in addition to what everyone else has said, this is a client team. We work as a client team. And in addition to that, we have other members of our firm that we bring in based on their particular expertise or contacts. I'm going to briefly mention our other named partner, Kevin Fay, who is an expert on environmental issues. He, in fact, was in Glasgow a couple of weeks ago. And I mention that because this particular administration, the Biden administration, has been being quite focused on sustainability, resilience, environmental issues on every aspect of municipal priorities. And so he's an asset to the firm. He's an asset for everything we do for the city and all of our municipal clients. And other members of the firm, as Nancy mentioned, we have available to you. But this is the main client team, and we want you to know us. And of course, all of you know me because of my being the point person in the lead, and I've been honored to do so for the last 18 years. And it's been a wonderful opportunity, and working with your city manager and your deputy city manager, as well as assistant city manager, Ms. Jacobs, and knowing you're, having communication with various other department heads, including your Chief Kerr. So with that, I just wanted to also say that I think it's important for you all to know that even with our longevity and having represented you as well for all these years, one of the things that we are always doing is innovating and making sure that we are adapting to the changing circumstances in Washington. The last 2 years, you've been dealing with COVID, and we have been doing so as well. And here with this video conference is an example of this. We are doing similar outreach to the members of Congress through video or text or email or whatever manner we need to. And I would also mention, we're very well aware that there's a new Congresswoman. Ms. Sherfilis McCormick, we have already conducted outreach to her new chief of staff, Willis Howard, had extensive conversation with him because we want him to immediately know who we are and who we represent, and letting him know about Riviera Beach right off the bat. And so that as she's hitting the ground running, we're hitting the ground running for you. And so we are already underway with that. And so I think it's just important for you all to know that. I know our time is limited. I just wanted to also say that specific accomplishments for you all, go back, as Skip said, over 20 years, over our history with you all, whether it's discretionary, competitive, or what's now called community project requests. It used to be called earmark requests. The total amount of our success for you exceeds over $9 million. And that doesn't even account for things we've saved, the money that Skip was talking about, that $800,000 a year. So we are very proud of this, but it's about what we're going to do for you forward. And we believe our record and what we've done tells you how we're going to perform for you in the future. And so I just wanted to lay that out. I know we have limited time. I want to be able to answer any and all questions. We know that the water infrastructure is hugely important for you. That's the #1 priority. I also wanted to just add one thing about my background, which I didn't give you, but in addition to being a lobbyist and a partner with our firm, I'm a former assistant district attorney and a former litigator. And in addition to that, I formerly worked on the Hill for the chairman of the Intelligence Committee. And I was very interested in your conversation and debate about putting in a clinic, a healthcare clinic in your community. And I raised that because in addition to us being lobbyists and lawyers and everything else we've done, we also bring all of our other expertise and experience. And as a matter of fact, for about 4 years, I served on an FHCQ, federally health qualified center in Washington, D.C. You can look it up, called La Clinica del Pueblo, and we will provide additional information about any issue that you work on, including that issue. And so I just wanted to share that with you. We bring all of our expertise and background. Nancy has a tremendous expertise with education and grassroots advocacy. Skip, of course, a former member of Congress, and you heard from Jeremiah. So with that being said, we welcome this opportunity. We look forward to your questions, and we would certainly very respectfully request and look forward to working with you in the future as we have these past 23 years, which feels like just a few days, but it's a lot of water under the bridge. We know there's changes going on, a lot of development, a lot of changes, things you guys are trying to accomplish, and we are here for you at all times, and I think our representation speaks to that. So thank you very much.
That's their time.
Thank you, sir. Our next presenter. Before we go for the next presenter, do we have any questions for this particular presenter for their presentation from the board? Any questions? Okay, we'll go ahead to our next presenter.
Second presenter will be Doyle Bartlett from Gray Robinson.
Okay, Ms. Clerk, could you take the time? Thank you. Go ahead, you can get started, Ray Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a presentation deck that we were going to show you all. I don't know if it can be loaded up at this point or not, just to sort of take us through the conversation. Here we go. So my name is Doyle Bartlett. I'm the managing shareholder for Gray Robinson here in Washington, D.C. Gray Robinson has been around for 50 years. Our 50th anniversary was last year. Charlie Gray, the founder of the firm, was city attorney in Orlando. The firm has now grown across Florida. We have 14 offices in Florida, plus an office in Washington, D.C. Our members of our firm have always been deeply involved in local government and local communities, part of what makes Gray Robinson what it is. And we continue to bring those services to all our clients, both our lobbying clients in Tallahassee as well as our lobbying clients in Washington, D.C. My background is I was chief of staff for Bill McCollum, where I got to work closely with Congressman Mathalis, who I was just thrilled to see. One of the bad parts of COVID is we don't get to see our colleagues at all. So I was on the Hill with Maurice, and I knew Congressman Mathalis from that time, and I kind of missed seeing them around. But I started off my career as a district director, so I spent time working with local governments, and then had my own firm for about 15 years and joined Gray Robinson about 3 years ago. And our goal in that was to try to bring Gray Robinson at the state level, represented about 40 cities and counties and the municipalities, municipal governments. We wanted to bring some representation of that to Washington, D.C., start to service those clients here before Congress and before the federal government. We've been able to do that successfully over the last 3 years with a handful of cities and county governments as well as some other municipal organizations. With me today is Blair Hancock. I will let her introduce herself and then talk a little bit more. Blair?
Thanks, Doyle. Pleasure to be with all of you tonight. I too am from Florida. I grew up in the Tampa Bay area, and it's this time of year in Washington, D.C. that really makes me miss my home state and the warm winters that it offers. So I started my career in the Florida governor's office in Washington, D.C., his federal office, and then went to Tallahassee and worked for the state legislature in the Economic Affairs Committee. I then had the opportunity to work for my alma mater, the University of Florida, doing their government relations, and then in Washington, D.C. And most recently, I worked for the Department of Housing and Urban Development in their Congressional Affairs Office. And in this role, I was responsible for nearly half the country, representing more than 300 congressional offices spanning over 30 states. And then I joined Gray Robinson about a year ago, and I do a lot of our federal work with our local governments and municipalities. So it is a real pleasure to have the opportunity to present to you this evening. And if back to our presentation, if we could go to a couple slides, through a couple slides. I believe it's slide number 5.
What's happening?
One more slide, please. So on this slide, we wanted to outline some of the opportunities that we
Hold it 1 second here.
the pipe.
Could you hold 1 second, please? We're having some difficulty with this presentation, not on their end, but on our end, because we can hardly hear them. And I want us to be able to hear them clearly. Walter, you think maybe we could get something so that we can kind of hear them a little bit more clearly?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
It may be on the presenter side. If they were to deactivate their camera or what have you, it may be some bandwidth issues that may improve. We can still hear them and the slides can still be advanced. That may be a way to remedy the situation a little bit.
Presenter, could you deactivate you guys' cameras so that we could maybe hear you a little clearer here?
Yes, ma'am, we've done that.
Thank
Does
you.
it sound better now?
Yes, yes. Go ahead. Much better.
Great. So on this slide, we outlined some of the opportunities we see. This is a unique time and really the perfect time to have federal representation because there is an unprecedented amount of funding coming from Washington to local governments. The first that we wanted to point out is the $1.2 trillion coming from the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. And we saw that in the Reimagine Riviera Beach, some capital improvement programs that wanted to improve some of the city buildings, the bridges and roads, and also some storm drains. And we think that the IIJA can really help the city in this endeavor. So I'm not going to read off all of the opportunities listed on this slide, but you can see there are significant opportunities in the economic development, transportation, and water spaces. I do want to add the disclaimer that unlike the American Rescue Plan, which provided direct allocations to state and local governments, the IIJA funding predominantly will come through existing grant programs, with much of the funding being awarded based off formulas through the state. And this is an area which we really excel with offices in Tallahassee and our team members based in Tallahassee and nearby. We stand ready to assist throughout all stages of the process. Another opportunity that we wanted to highlight today was the appropriations process. As you know, the previous presenters said, the 117th Congress reinstated the federal earmark process, or community project funding requests, as they're officially titled. And unlike the previous earmark process, the new process has some limitations and special rules for how an earmark can be considered. For example, each congressional member is limited to sponsoring 10 projects, and each project cannot exceed $3 million. But you have a unique opportunity as well, given that Congresswoman Frankel sits on the Appropriations Committee. So having her, kind of lead one of your projects is a real opportunity. And the fire station that was mentioned earlier tonight, I also saw online that you have a youth library and a water treatment plant that are, kind of top of mind. And on the surface, these are projects and projects similar to these would be eligible under consideration of this new earmark process. So we see this as another opportunity that we can assist with. And again, you may know that Congress is operating on a continuing resolution until February 18th, but once they wrap up the FY22 appropriations process, they'll immediately begin working on the FY23. So again, this is the ideal time to be having these initial discussions. And the next slide, please. This next slide kind of outlines our approach to working with you. When working with local governments, we find a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work because each community is different and each have different needs. So if we are fortunate enough to get the chance to work together, we would pursue an individually tailored approach where we would develop legislative priorities and a strategy through conversations with you. So on the prior slide, we kind of identified some opportunities based on some assumptions of needs, but through an engaging dialogue, we can really drill down on those city opportunities.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, they have a minute left.
I'm sorry?
They have a minute left.
I'm sorry, your 10 minutes are up.
No, they have a minute left.
Oh, you said 1 minute, I'm sorry. You have 1 minute left, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'll wrap up quickly. Once we have that agreed upon strategy, that's when we'll work on matching your needs with existing opportunities and cultivating those legislative champions within the Florida delegation to create new opportunities. And throughout every step of our potential partnership, we would have a transparent process with established benchmarks to make sure that we are not only meeting your expectations, but hopefully exceeding them. Doyle, did I miss anything? If not, I think that would conclude our presentation.
No, other than just to say thank you. Thank you for having us. Thank you for the opportunity. We look forward to any questions that you have. And as I said, you know, we're both Floridians, and we're excited about the opportunity to represent another Florida-based community and try to get some of the needs you have addressed here in Washington, D.C. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Are there any questions for this presenter from the board? If not, we'll go to public comment.
Ms. Bonnie Larson, that's your only public comment.
Bonnie Larson, just for 30 seconds, I want to say thank you to Mr. Evans for looking into my situation. We had no electric last night. I slept in my car. It was 42 degrees. We have no electric at the house right now. I let those people on our property. We have nothing, absolutely nothing. Now it's going to be another night in the car. All right, on to this. Al-Qadi and Faye have been our lobbyists for 23 years. Disclosure, I have no knowledge of these people or the other group who's applying for the job. I think they could have sent one person from the firm down here to speak with us rather than, that was really hard to hear. I think they could have sent one person if they want to have a job in Riviera Beach. But anyway, all right.
If you can, we can, it's like you're mumbling, we can't.
Okay,
yeah,
that
so,
better?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I made the disclosure. I don't know either one of these parties, but we've had Al-Qadi and Faye for 23 years. I looked briefly, so I have no computer with no electric. I looked briefly on someone else's computer today, and in 2014, they provided for some breathing apparatus, got some money for us from breathing apparatus. 2016, they did something about Spanish courts. They wanted a public market down there. That's all defunct. They gave us $1,335 they got for us to hire 9 firefighters. Well, maybe for 1 year. We have to hire them the rest of the time, you know. Body cams, that's also an old issue. Nothing on there was what they've done currently. I would have liked to have seen what they've done for us recently and put the years with it so we know what they've done. I didn't see anything newer on that list other than 2016. Another issue is their biggest client are the cruise ships. Well, we know what's happening in the cruise ships these days. They also represent Boca Raton, Deerfield, Hallandale, and Lauderdale Lakes. Some of those cities are probably vying for the same money that we want, and Al-Qadi and Faye works for them, so you know what's going to happen there. Okay, the other group, Gray Robinson, they have 275 professionals, 532 employees, 15 offices in Florida. They said they would remain, their price will remain the same for 5 years. Their biggest client is the U.S. Travel Association, and they said they would give us 5 staff. Okay, both the prices, Al-Qaeda and Faye want $60,000 a year, which is $5,000 a month. The other group wants $72,000, which is $6,000 a month. So sometimes you get what you pay for, and sometimes you keep the same company for too long. I didn't hear anything what they're going to do for us, Al-Qaeda and Faye, on what I could hear of that. Now, the new group, they were up on what we want to do now, and I have a little bit more hope for them, but it's your decision, but those are the analogies that I made. Sometimes you keep somebody too long, and they get a little bit lax, because I didn't see anything new that they've gotten money for us. And also, thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. We have 2 groups here that are seeking to become the federal lobbyists for the city of Riviera Beach. We were given a ballot, for lack of better terms, to rank these individuals. At this time, if you can go ahead and rank these individuals so that we can tally up where we are and how we move forward with the council's choice. Could have someone come pick these up for us so that we can tally these up?
Madam Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
you would need to announce who your number 1, number 2 is, and then we can tally it up from the staff side.
Excellent. We will start with Commissioner Lawson.
Come back to you, Madam Chair.
All right, very good. Commissioner Botel?
I chose Al-Qaeda as first and Gray Robinson as second.
Put in the microphone.
I'm sorry, I chose Al-Qaeda as first and Gray Robinson as second.
Okay, very good. Ms. Miller Anderson?
Al-Qaeda and Faye first, and then Gray Robinson second.
My choice was Gray Robinson first, Al-Qaeda and Faye second.
Madam Chair, my choice was Al-Qaeda first and Gary Robinson second.
Very good. We can pass these down?
Yes, you can pass it down.
It appears that Arcadia and Faye have the majority, and that means that they are continue to be our federal lobbyists.
Madam Chair, we would need a motion to reflect that ranking and then to allow for us to go into the subsequent steps regarding the negotiation process.
Move to select Al-Qaeda and Foy as our lobbyist, federal lobbyist.
Second. Madam Chair, we need approval of Resolution 20-22.
We have that on the, right, let's do that first.
Can I just make a comment before we do
Sure,
that?
of course.
I do want to say, in regards to Mr. Curlin, I've visited Washington, D.C. a number of times, and, you know, he has very much been very helpful in terms of making sure that he gets us to the meetings that we need to go to when it comes to some of the legislators up there. I think the relationship that his organization has, I understand they've been around for a long time with us, and sometimes it is good to kind of mix it up. But I do believe there's some value in having people who have great relationships with people in that area, and he has been a great help in terms of making sure that those relationships are in a positive way. And then also, he's been very helpful, and I know Ms. Bonnie did speak about the things that he did some time ago in terms of the body cams. He was very, very much a part of the reason why we were able to get those body cams moving, and of course that was along with Mayor Masters at that time. But his organization has been very helpful. They've been professional. They're always communicating with us, and so that's why I want to see them continue on with this contract. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other comments in regards to our federal lobbyist? Let us go ahead and vote on the item that was presented. And that is resolution number 02-22. We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chairperson Lanier?
Yes.
That vote passes.
And now,
Thank you. And the next item, a motion to be made.
wait.
I'm sorry?
Liz.
You asked, what does the resolution do? It authorized the city manager and city clerk to sign the agreement between the city and the selected firm, and it authorizes the city attorney to prepare the agreement to present for their signature.
Okay?
Madam Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
I would like to make a motion. Given that the Foundcare topic was on the agenda, I feel it's appropriate for me to make a resolution that we bring it up for consideration at our next possible meeting, which I guess would be the February meeting, first meeting in February.
Okay, so let us, one thing at a time. Do we need a motion to approve allocating fee for our lobbyist?
No, I think.
Yes, Madam Chair.
We do. A motion needs to be made to make allocating fee our federal lobbyist and
Okay.
for the city to proceed with negotiations for that contract.
I think I made that motion, but
She did that motion
She made the
already.
motion?
Yeah.
We got a second. You have that?
I thought you said that you were going to wait and address the motion you had on the table and then come
We
back.
did. We just did that.
Okay.
so now we can come back to the motion on
So
okay.
now we're coming back to the motion of making them the actual.
Right.
And we had a motion that was made by Votel and it was a second by Lawson.
Okay.
All right, so we need to vote on that. Go ahead.
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Miller Anderson?
Yes.
Chairperson Lanier?
Yes. Thank you both presenters for your presentations. We appreciate you reaching out to the city of Riviera Beach and wanting to be a part of the city. Thank you so much again. That's it for that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Now we have another motion that,
Discussion for the police, number two.
oh, right.
I'm
So do
sorry.
we come back after that
Yeah.
for her motion?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
Wait a minute.
Excellent. We have the last item on our agenda is a discussion and deliberation for gun violence in the city of Riviera Beach. Commissioner Lawson brought this item to the table to be discussed. I'm in total agreement of having some discussion about what is happening in our city and just the sheer number of shootings that have happened in the past couple of weeks. So, Mr. Evans, if you can provide us some direction and so that we can at least have some conversation about this.
Yes, Madam Chair, staff is going to provide some brief remarks related to what we've seen over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, we have some concerns with respect to the uptick in gun violence that is occurring in our community as well as adjacent communities. City staff is working with other agencies to try to address this issue because it seems to be jumping over municipal boundaries, and so it's an issue for other communities. The Chief of Police has a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with representatives from the West Palm Beach Police Department to try to work collaboratively to address some of the issues. Also, we are looking to have some more in-depth conversation with the State Attorney's Office and how we can work together with respect to the collaboration efforts necessary to move forward with charges on persons that are suspects related to some of the homicides that we have in our community. At this time, I'm going to ask for Police Chief Mr. Nathan Osgood to provide you a little bit more in-depth details related to some of the things that his department has been doing and their collaboration with other law enforcement agencies in the region. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Good evening, Chair, Mr. Mayor, and Board. As you know, recently we had an uptick in gun violence in our communities. It is nothing new here in South Florida and even here in the city of Riviera Beach. We're not the only city that has experienced gun violence. Some of our cities just to the south of us have also experienced gun violence. This uptick started January 9th with a shooting around 31st Street Avenue M. A few days later, around 5-6 days later, it carried on over to another city, another area. But through our investigation, we learned one shooting didn't have anything to do with the other. I don't want to get too far into details about the investigation and where we are, but what we have done is we put out an uptick in law enforcement patrol and to be more proactive and aggressive. We also have, as recent as Saturday night, called for a mutual aid assistance between the city of West Palm, the Sheriff's Office, and us, and we're going to be in each of the areas patrolling. We have some targets, persons of interest that we're coming after, and they know it. They're down hiding, but we're going to be asking for the public to come forward as well. It's going to be crucial for them to point fingers at the people who are killing people in their communities. These are not just random shootings. These are specific. They're going after targets, and they are spraying and praying. So sometimes it's just a matter of time. These stray bullets are going to fly across and go other places. So we need to uptake our police services, not just here in the city of Riviera Beach. We're calling on all cities to collaborate together and help us out. And we are also helping out other cities with their gun violence. And I can take any questions you have in it, but keep in mind, pending investigation, I'm going to be limited to what I can answer. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. And Chief, thank you again for being here tonight, Mr. Evans. I brought this item to my colleagues because a number of residents have been reaching out to us about the uptick in violent crimes. And it's not just in our city, it's across multiple municipalities. And there's a concern that we have to address. Colleagues, we have to figure out how to provide as much support and resources or additional support and resources to our department as possible. One of the few things that I want us to kind of readdress when you come back to us, Chief, is how can we provide additional funding? What additional programs do you need? What additional services can we do as a council? Because we're limited and our hands are tied to whatever the request comes from staff. So you determine, Mr. Evans determines what is the need so that we can know how to address this, because we have to address this head on. We've seen multiple mutual aid agencies in our city. Residents have asked questions about that, and it's concerning because at the same time, with the uptick and seeing additional mutual aid in our city, we want to figure out what is the best approach. Is this going to be the best approach? Do we need more boots on the ground? Do we need additional officers for your department? You tell us what the needs are, and we're going to give it to you. Our responsibility and requirement is to actually provide support and services to our residents. So, Chief, you put it on the line, you tell us what we need, and this board is adamant to support that need for this department. We are homegrown officers that we want to give as much support as possible. We're very supportive of our police athletic league. We're very supportive of the community policing. So whatever programs or innovative ideas that you bring to the table, we want to prepare and provide that additional resources. I'm sure Mr. Evans can find some additional funding for right now, and we want to be prepared for FY 2023 so that once that time comes around, we can know, okay, this is what we have to allocate for these departments. But as of right now, we can't wait till that time frame because there's too many lives that we're losing right now. And we understand that it's across the board. It's literally not just here in the city, it's all over the state, all over the county. And we're seeing the issues and concerns, and we see the additional support that is running between. But these criminals aren't just saying, oh, I'm going to be in Riviera Beach and I'm just going to do crime here. They're literally just shooting all up and down the coast. So we want to give you that support necessary, but you got to tell us and come with a great presentation. Mr. Evans said that you guys are having a meeting tomorrow. As soon as possible, we'll be ready to address these concerns head on. But we just need to know what additional support you need.
All right, Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, Councilman, so you're 100% right. We're always going to need more boots on the ground. We're never going to turn down boots on the ground when it comes to how to combat crime. We understand our boundaries and our leverage on what we have and what we cannot get. However, more manpower is always needed. Now, keep in mind, as soon as we build up our staff where we need it, sometimes staff say the grass is greener other places, and they move on. So we're not the only one experiencing this. Other cities experience a turnover rate. So at the same time, I want to say we can always beef up our staff, for one. Right now, we have to work with what we have, and that is the current manpower. We need to open up our overtime budget to have our men and women coming out, put overtime on the books for them to come out and work extra hours, and not just the overtime budget. We may have to even stretch the limited mandatory minimum hours at maximum hours they can work in a month, just so we can get some time coverage to cover the streets and what we're asking for. We have broken down many specialized units to also cover, if you guys are paying attention in your communities, if you get a chance to see it, you're going to see more police patrolling at night. They're making stops of vehicles that's suspicious. I don't want anyone to think that everybody's being stopped just because, but what's happening, we have just in the past 5 days taken 4 individuals to jail who in possession of handguns, and they shouldn't have been in possession of handguns. We stopped them. They're convicted felons. They have guns, and they're not just going for a joyride. The officers are doing a really good job and targeting. They're getting information from anonymous sources, confidential informants, and they're making these stops. I'm just asking that we can keep the pressure on. You're going to see assistance from other agencies, municipalities, and I know as soon as that happens, our phone ring, my phone ring, your phone is going to ring, and ask, why is this agency in our city? There's a reason why they're going to be in our city is to quell, to stop this gun violence.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
Madam Chair.
Sorry, I just want to finish my comments, Madam Chair.
Yes, 1 second, Mr. Lawson. Let me give Mr. Evans a opportunity to respond to that, but you'll go next.
To the chief's point, we do have additional personnel. We have upstaffed the night shifts. One of the things that we are looking to bring before you, and we've had the discussion, is our overtime budgets for public safety, because now you sprinkle COVID on top of this. And so you have situations where persons are out of the office, and we're looking to even modify our existing policy as to how we can safely return folks back to the office so they can be out there to assist. So both public safety departments, we've had the conversation with Mr. Sherman about bringing some modifications to the overtime budgets for public safety departments to be able to have additional flexibility to bring in persons to fill the voids that we may have in our community. But that is also a challenge, but that is something that's going to be coming back before you all here in the short time to get additional resources to be able to help us address some of the challenges we have at this moment.
Okay, Mr. Lawson, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chief, just 2 additional questions. Has the trend been towards targeted criminals or random offenses in regards to violent crime? And the timeline on the completion of the substations for Lindsay Davis and Azora Estates. Those were kind of some of the concerns and things that I want us to address. And I know that we're going to kind of put together a more in-depth presentation. This is kind of on the spot. But because of what has been happening just the last 2 weeks, I think we have to address some of the concerns and be prepared for what requests the council has and then what you can give to us so that we can give you the resources necessary.
Okay. Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I'll go with the last question first. So the substation, we are hoping to be in front of council by February 16th with our, and that'll be between us and Public Works, information to go forward with starting building on the substation with our budget for it. And I believe the first part of your question was about the random criminals, our targets.
The violent crimes.
Violent crimes.
Are you saying that it's more so random, or are these targeted?
It's not random. It's not random at all. This is ongoing years of beef between 2 groups. And then sometimes the group spill over into other cities. Now, the incident that occurred, the shooting that occurred on January 9th is totally different. That homicide is totally different, unrelated to the past 2 shooting incidents. So I know it appears, because they all happen back to back, they're all related, but they're not. We have really good intel that lead us into the right direction of persons of interest on each of the shootings. I'm confident that we're looking at the right people, and Mr. Evans pointed out earlier that we're working with the state attorney's office to present this information to the state attorney's office to get it into a grand jury, hopefully soon. And then closing out the year, we had another shooting. And that's also the person of interest has been identified, and that information is waiting in the hands of the state attorneys to go forward with as well.
Thank you, Chief, for that.
Thank you.
I just had a question in regards to the mutual aid. So when those different agencies come and assist with our officers, you know, obviously every agency has their own way of dealing with their citizens. Are they asked to follow our lead, or are they coming in with the same situation in their community?
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead,
respond? So, Councilwoman Miller Anderson, they have their own set of rules, policy, and procedures, which is pretty much not different from ours. Now, some agencies operate with body-worn cameras, some do not. And what we do not get into is telling another agency how to do the police work. On paper, on book, we do police work the same. In other words, the law is the law. And most agencies' policies are, we mimic our policies. Now, body-worn cameras for some agencies is nothing more than a budgetary item. It's not that they don't believe they should have them. You know, it's a budgetary item that they have to get into their budget and get it done. I've bragged basically from day one coming into the city of Riviera Beach. As far as a smart city, we have all the tools that you can possibly ask for. We have CCTV, a real-time crime center. We have drones. We have LPR system, and we have body-worn cameras. We're 2-3 steps ahead of the game. And most police agencies in our county, they know that we are. The city of Riviera Beach Police Department is the very first city in the state of Florida to have a robust, should I say, shot spotter. We're the first agency in the state of Florida to have shot spotters, and the agencies followed us afterwards. And we're one of the first cities to even come forward with body-worn cameras, so we're ahead of the game.
Thank you, Chief, for those comments. My comments are the fact that I understand that we're not going to police ourselves out of this, that this is gun violence and that it takes more than the police to be involved to be able to solve these issues. You know, the CDC says that gun violence is a public health issue. The fact that, you know, we are reimagining Riviera Beach, we have to reimagine public safety. We have to have, you know, philanthropic groups, nonprofits to be involved with the police to be able to solve some of these issues that lead to violence, which is poverty and jobs and housing, those kind of things. And it may sound like a pie in the sky, but that is the only way that we're going to be able to address some of these issues. These issues stem from people who are you know, locked out of the American dream, so to speak. We're not giving a pass to them, but we also know that it is not just up to the police to do this, that this takes a community effort. This takes us partnering with people, you know, other than the police to be able to solve these issues. So I commend the police department in trying to, you know, develop these different ideas to how we're going to move forward because, you know, in the last 2 or 3 weeks, I mean, the last year, you know, the gun violence in the city has been, you know, outrageous. And it's not just in our city, it is across the board. And we need to figure out how we're going to address that in our city. And I think that it is going to take more than just the police to do that. So, you know, we're open to, you know, having some discussions, workshopping with other council members and figuring out how we're going to address this issue in our city because it is an issue. I had a phone call today of, you know, a lady was talking about illegal dumping and, you know, and basically she said my biggest issue is crime. And, you know, everybody wants to feel safe in their neighborhood, and I think that we can, you know, we can decrease this. I don't know that we can, you know, solve it because it's just an issue, you know, across the country, but I know that we at least can make a dent in this, and we have to do it as a community and not just put all the onus on the police to actually do it.
Madam Chair, I agree. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Mayor,
go ahead, Mayor.
Chair, I totally agree. And just to give you an example, it is a community issue. I've been here for going on 53 years, and, you know, when this started back in 87, 88, it hasn't stopped, right? We've been experiencing this for the last 30-something years, and it's always an uptick in every new year, right? For the past 30 years, when you hit January, February, March, it's going to be an uptick, right? And so one of the things that I experienced firsthand is, a couple months ago, my nephew got killed. And I think we need to be putting more resources into how do we keep or bring our community together because people know what goes on, but whether it's a trust, whether they want to say who did it, how it was done, the person saw my nephew get killed. It's right next door. They saw my nephew get killed, right? But one of the things, I don't know if I'm privy to the information, but as the gunman was running away and they was telling them to call the police, the gunman pointed the gun and said, if you say anything, we're coming back to you. That shut them down completely, right? So, my nephew's killer will probably go free because the community is scared to talk. And that's what's happening in our community. So I think we need to find ways, how do we engage our community, making sure that they give us information, that information don't leak. That's the biggest issue, because people, they're scared to talk because they don't want the information to get out that they told. And so we can't police our way out of this. I agree with you, Chair. We can't police our, we can put more boots on the ground. Listen, they're going to work around that. The key to it is the saying that went out years ago, see something, say something, right? That's our biggest issue, because people know what's going on, but we haven't created systems where they can tell us and we keep them protected. That's really what we need to focus on, and because we'll be able to solve a lot of crimes. Another thing is, and I don't know if it's a federal program or anything, what's the home cameras door? The ring, right? Whether it's a city we look to get some grants or something, everybody should have a ring, right? That shares a lot. And so, those are programs we need to be putting money in. Like everybody in Riviera Beach should have a ring. And so that catches a lot of stuff. But I think, everybody's right. We can't just police our way out of it. It has to be a community effort. And we have to come up with systems too, that when these folks know something, that they can feel safe, that when they give us information, that information is not going to leak, because that's the biggest issue I think that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you so much for that presentation. We understand that, we're going to put money, at this issue. We need to be putting money in terms of, crime prevention, in terms of looking at, addressing the violence as a public health issue, and also making sure that we are including the community as a part of this solution and not just the police. So thank you so much for that briefing. And if you can, maybe our next meeting, you can kind of give us some update in terms of what the police department is doing to address this as well.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Chief, when you give that update, could you include, and I've mentioned this before, I know we have RECAP. I know that reclaiming our communities through peace, or whatever it is, RECAP, whatever the acronym stands for. And I wonder if we're using that model as faithfully as they did in Las Vegas. Because when they used it in Las Vegas, they had a significant reduction in the crime rate. And there's got to be something different that they did there that we're not doing here. The report I would like to have would be what churches are involved, because it's very important that we involve the religious community in this city. And the way the RECAP program works is that each church becomes a hub of that particular community. You know this. I want to know how many churches are involved with RECAP and how many visits the RECAP staff has made, for example, to families who've been involved in these incidents. I just want some statistics about how we're employing the RECAP program. Thanks.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
And just to address Dr. Botel, Councilwoman Botel, we don't have a lot of participation from the churches. And that's one of the big problems that we are having, because that program runs through your churches and your church members. And so there has not been a good following with the churches. I don't know how we get them out, but that's a start. But right now, it's not a lot of participation.
Yes, and I agree, and not just the churches, but the city of Riviera Beach has a plethora of nonprofits in the city that can also address some of these issues. So I think that it's going to be a community issue and not just a police issue to be able to move the needle on gun violence in our city. So thank you so much, Chief, for that.
And one last thing, this is not for Chief. This is for Attorney Nguyen. We, at my recommendation, we are involved in a lawsuit I wondered if we can have an update on that regarding our inability, our prohibition against us imposing any restrictions on the ownership or use of guns in the city. Could we get at some point in the future an update on how that lawsuit is going?
Yes, definitely, ma'am.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Very good. All
Madam
right,
Chair?
go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Chief, again, thank you for being here tonight. Colleagues, this is the discussion that we just need to continue to have and whatever resources are necessary. So this was a very, this was an impactful discussion because we understand there's so many families being affected. But first thing, Chief, thank you, and thank you to every officer that puts their life on the line every single day because you guys are doing a phenomenal job. I've seen firsthand you guys save lives. I've been there where I had family members that were calling to say, hey, these officers just saved my brother's life, just saved our family member's life. So I know you guys are putting your life on the line. We thank you for that. And that's why we're trying to find every resource necessary. And I couldn't agree with my colleagues more in reference to this is not a police issue. This is a community issue. This is governance. We need to provide as much support to our community as possible. So whatever it is that we need to do is, that's where we need to look outside the box. When they talked about defunding the police, I never agreed with that. I always agreed with trying to figure out additional resources for our community to give them the resources necessary. So Chief, keep doing what you're doing, and we're gonna give you the support you need, okay? Thank you, Chief.
So much.
Thank you, Chief.
And funding is crucial to being able to do this work. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let us move on to, go ahead.
Madam Chair, thank you. Now I would like to make a motion that we place on the next agenda the issue of the Foundcare project. I really want to see this happen in the city. I think it's so important, and I just want a couple of weeks to try to figure out how to make it happen so that it fits with the neighborhood, so that it fits with their objectives, because we know that they have some very fine objectives, but I just need a couple of weeks. So if I could make a motion, please, to put it on the next agenda.
Second.
Excuse me, if we can do it properly, Dr. Botel, you can make a motion to reconsider it at the next meeting.
To make a motion to reconsider it at the next meeting. Thank you. Second.
Second?
I already said, yeah, second.
You second.
All right, very good. Madam Clerk?
Councilperson Lawson?
Yes.
Councilperson Botel?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Miller Henderson?
Yes.
Chairperson Lanier?
Yes.
That vote passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Let us get started with the winding down. Discussion by the city manager.
Madam Chair, just a couple of quick things. For one, I just wanted to see if there's consensus from the board for us to deploy the necessary resources to look at the annexation topic that was raised at the utility district special meeting, and then bring back a report on what we can do and what we can't do, and then what the cost would be, cost benefit to the city should we decide to go in that direction.
Yes, from me.
What was that? You said something
Annex
about
property.
annexation, is that what you said?
Yes, annexation, yes.
Okay.
I'm a yes.
Yes.
I'm fine with that.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm fine with that, moving forward, yes.
The other item is we had what I believe to be is some successful conversations with members of our delegation, as well as members that are not members of the Palm Beach County Legislative Delegation in Tallahassee, related to the projects that we were advocating for. And this year, the state's budget is projected to be $100 billion budget, to the point where they're talking about billions of dollars going into reserves. So it's one of the few legislative sessions whereby the legislature has money and is willing to spend the money, especially in light of a election. So we believe that our projects will be looked at favorably. We are hopeful that we will hear some news about our projects making their way through committees and then ultimately going through the legislative process. And so at some point, we may need to individually lean in on some of the projects and even ask for some of our residents to participate in contacting members of our legislative delegation. I want to thank Senator Powell for his time and his leadership in sponsoring a lot of our projects, as well as Representative Caruso, that is certainly leaning in on some of our projects as our member for District 88. will not be seated for this legislative session. And so it puts us in a precarious situation, but there are other members that are advocating on behalf of Riviera Beach. And so we will still keep the board abreast of what's going on, but certainly looking to ask for a little bit more than we originally asked the legislature for, because they've even said that on some of our projects. And so we may see a situation where we get an opportunity to receive additional monies from the state. And the projects that we have are exceptional projects. They're infrastructure. They're consistent with the ideologies and perspectives of the legislature and the governor, and it seems to be something that we can hopefully see dividends pay off as it relates to the time, energy, and effort. And I want to appreciate all the members of the council that were present to assist in having those conversations and discussions, and look forward to providing some additional updates related to the legislative session. So the next 60 days is going to be pretty intense for us as we move forward. Pivoting related to COVID. COVID has impacted the agency greatly over the last some years. We are making modifications to the COVID policy. One of the caveats that we have in the policy is that you have to have a negative test before you return back to work. And so we're looking at some of the guidance and direction that's been provided by the CDC. They've moved off of that because some persons can still test positive well after the 10 to 14 days. And so we're looking to make some tweaks and modifications because we have a situation where we need to get persons back to work, especially in our public safety departments, because that is causing for some strain on our overtime budget and our personnel. So we're going to be making some tweaks and modifications. So I'll be providing guidance to the employees related to that on Friday. Also, we still have enough access and capacity for the testing site that's at the Wells Recreation Center. There is virtually no wait. I can't guarantee how long that site is going to remain open, but I think it's important that members of the community, you can get both a PCR test and a rapid test. The PCR test, you'll get the results in probably 24 hours. Your rapid test, anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours. But certainly it's advantageous for you to, if when in doubt, go get tested. It's right here in our community, and certainly we want to utilize that service as much as possible. We know that the variant is very contagious, and still doing what we can to safeguard the employees by encouraging virtual meetings and providing some additional masks and what have you. And so if anyone in the community is needing any mask or sanitation or what have you, as far as hand sanitizer, certainly do not hesitate to reach out to the city. We can certainly assist and supply as much as possible. We do have a good amount of masks. And as it relates to the at-home test, I believe we've put out information concerning the federal government providing for at-home tests. The test kits will take about 7 to 10 days before they're shipped out. We haven't heard any additional information from the county that partnered up with the city for the allotment of tests that we distributed a couple of weeks ago at Callaway Tate in the overflow parking lot. But in the event we get additional information, we'll put that information out as quickly as possible. And certainly encouraging people to get vaccinated. This is something that is very concerning, as well as, I don't know if you all saw the information about the new research that has been conducted, and seeing that young people that are not vaccinated are having issues with regards to diabetes. The research is showing that they're more prone to diabetes if they do contract the virus, especially teens. And so there's a lot of research that's coming out with respect to that. So I know it's something that there's not a lot of information out, but certainly for young people, please, parents, consider getting your child vaccinated. It's important, and hopefully we'll see some form of normality in the summer months. But there is also conversations about, obviously encouraging people to get their boosters, but there's probably another shot that you'll see during the summer. So maybe a 4-shot regimen to just be conscientious of. And so we're continuing to keep our fingers on the pulse on this as best as possible. and a lot of other government entities in Palm Beach County are in the same situation. So if anything changes or we have any personnel-related issues related to staffing and our ability to staff operations, certainly we'll keep the board attuned to what's going on. We haven't reduced any capacity of some operations or events or programs. We're just watching it and seeing what the numbers look like. So, Madam Chair, that completes my report for this evening.
No.
You kind of set me up when you said wind down, and I was like, oh.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Evans. Committee reports, do we have any committee reports? I know
Madam
we do.
Chair, I attended the Palm Beach North Chamber Government Affairs Committee on January 14th. Councilmember Miller Anderson also was there, and she made an excellent pitch for assistance, and I'll let her tell you about that.
You want me to go?
The railroad. Yeah.
Yes, so during that meeting, Mr. Evans, I figured that we might want to look to asking Palm Beach County, it's getting late, Palm Beach Chamber North and their members to try to help us out in terms of the train, because some of us got stuck with the train today to the meeting. But I did let them know that we would hopefully reach out to them and see how they can band together with us to get something going with that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Evans, you know, it's a 10-city chamber, and we often collaborate. As you may recall, we collaborated on that Smart Cities grant and another more recent one. In any case, I think if you were to put together a request for assistance from those 10 cities, the chamber would be happy to take it forward to the membership. If you can think of something that they can help us with, you know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the committee reports. Statements by the mayor and the city council. We will start with the mayor.
Yes, thank you.
I'm sorry, Mayor. City attorney.
No comment, Madam Chair.
Okay, statements by the mayor.
Yeah, just to my colleagues, I just hope that we can really look at Foundcare and just hearing Mr. Evans with what's going on now with our young people, and you know our community is really affected with diabetes. So, you know, with an organization like that, I think it brings just some type of security here to our people. And I know we're discussing what area that is in, but you know, when it's somebody's health, I don't think they care where they have to go. I think the need is there, and I think we have an organization. One thing Councilwoman Miller said, because I think I know the organization that's funding this, and they want to get into Riviera Beach, but one of the things they always say, and I think Foundcare said it, is that they're not going to get it done, and you know, we don't want that to keep going by. Like, people are willing to invest millions of dollars in here, and we're not, you know, we're not going with it. So I just hope that you guys really consider. I think it's a great opportunity to really be a blessing to our people. If you have not been to Foundcare, please set an appointment, go see what they do. Like the chair said, it's not a clinic. This thing is operating like a hospital. And as she stated, you know, you either go to St. Mary's or you go to Palm Beach Gardens. There's nothing here in our city that our residents can go to. So I hope that you guys really consider these next couple meetings to bring Foundcare here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I concur. Councilman Lawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I actually agree with our mayor, and thank you, Councilwoman Botel, for bringing the idea back to the discussion. As we all stated, we want Foundcare here, but I think we have to come up with some creative ideas of expediting the development, possibly looking at giving them an entire floor of City Hall on Broadway, since we're moving forward with that Broadway development. Looking at possibly expediting the public safety facility and incorporating them into the development on Blue Heron at 601. So there's a couple options, and looking at all the land. Just looking at 3 parcels of land, I think we need to extend it a little bit further to really incorporate Foundcare, because why not have an entire facility inside of our City Hall if it's going to be on Broadway on one of the floors? We had a beautiful 6-story building that we were showcasing on the building we're building, so give them 15,000 square feet as one of the floors in City Hall. Those are options. Let's just be creative with the idea of getting them into our city. So I don't think our decision today was to say no. it was to say no to that location. But we want to get it done, so that's why on the next meeting, let's find a location and let's expedite that decision. Just two announcements, Madam Chair. On Friday, January 28th at 7 p.m., my office is going to be hosting a mental illness seminar forum, partnering with the National Legions of Mental Illness, NAMI, and officially ISA. We're going to be hosting this forum at the Marina, and we're inviting residents. We'll be airing it live online. If you have any questions, please reach out to my aide at 561-346-2026, and please pre-register for the event because it's going to be limited space. But you can watch the forum online. We'll be talking about mental illness in our community. And lastly, I wanted to see if my colleagues would entertain the idea of having a Shop Black Business Month campaign. Last year, my office launched an initiative which encouraged individuals to patronize Black businesses during Black History Month. And I think with the city assistance and support, we can actually launch an entire Shop Black Business Month for the month of February, Black History Month, doing a marketing campaign and bringing some of the businesses to the city or the CRA and really showcasing some of the local businesses and local talent that we have within our community. So if we can kind of entertain that, looking at some marketing dollars and come up with some ideas for Shop Black Business Month, I would love for my colleagues to support that and see if Mr. Evans can bring that initiative to the table. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, colleagues.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Bertel?
Thank you. I want to publicly thank our lobbyist, Sean Pittman, and for his help in Tallahassee last week, and also thank Mr. Evans for representing us so well. You were very persuasive. I think we met with all the right people, and I'm confident that our trip will pay off for us. The quarterly Singer Island Town Hall meeting scheduled for tomorrow night will not be in person. We're not going to bring people out because of COVID, so it's going to be virtual. The new announcement is now on Nextdoor and Facebook, but you must register to get the link to participate. And I really hope everybody participates because we're going to be taking a look at the medians on North Ocean Drive and the median that's right in front of Phil Foster. And I want everybody to have a chance to weigh in on what they want to see there. Please use the buckets that we've installed on the beach. When you visit our city beach, please pick up a bucket and collect trash while you're there. I started working on this project in September of 2019 with Mr. Blankenship and Mr. Evans. I'm so pleased that it's finally come to fruition. And a last word about my friend, Mr. Lozman. Mr. Lozman purchased his property, the property he owns on Singer Island, for $24,000, knowing full well that it was located in a special preservation area. He has a realtor's license, and I'm sure he's knowledgeable that the property could not be developed. This is pristine wetland property. I'm flattered that Mr. Lozman thinks I have so much power over my colleagues, but to tell you, over 1,000 people weighed in on this, and every environmental group and every single scientist all have opposed development of our fragile wetlands and an ecologically important lagoon. And so as for his threats and predictions of financial ruin for the city, I think most people have heard Mr. Lozman before insist that things would happen, and they didn't happen. And I think we should take this latest threat with the grain of salt that we have done in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson?
I just wanted to echo what Dr. Botel stated about our Palm Beach County Day with our legislator, with our lobbyists, and also the legislators that are really working hard on our behalf, and Mr. Evans and staff for doing such an excellent job while we were up there. I just, the few times that I've been up there, I really felt really good about this time and the reception that we were getting from the legislators. So I really hope that we're able to get that money that we need in order to make our water better and get our new utility district. Thank you all so much. Didn't think we were going to be here this long, but we're here.
I know, right?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And with that, I just wanted to say to the public that you can get free COVID tests through USPS, which is the United States Postal Service, .com, or through the federal government, covidtest.gov. They'll give each household 4 free at-home COVID tests. They usually take about 15 minutes and you get results back. So if you can't make it to the Well Center for testing, you can also have your own testing. Also, the Urban Farm is looking for volunteers to continue the great work that they have done. The grand opening on January the 8th was an excellent success. The Youth Empowerment Program is opening their Riviera Beach Cafe on Monday, January the 24th. So please come by and check them out at the library. And lastly, the Inner City Innovators, which is the Hope Dealers Program, is still operating out of the Brooks Center on 4th Street, so please become involved. Thank you so much, and our meeting is adjourned. Jesus, it's been a short meeting. I told